All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the call. Once again, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. And we're going to get going with our new training. Our training, continue our training, I should say. And we kind of just want to start off. If you checked your email, I think this just came in about an hour ago. What you see on the screen, this came from IHSA. For those that may be new or not familiar with this, or if you don't check your email regularly, typically during each season, the individuals that are in charge of each sport through the IHSA will send out an insider newsletter with any updates of any information pertaining to that particular sport. As you may know, Beth Sauser and Chris Schwartz are the ones in charge of basketball from the IHSA. Beth handles the girls' basketball, and Chris handles the boys' basketball. So they're the two individuals that I just highlighted there. Those are the two individuals that are in charge for basketball for IHSA. So just real quickly, I'm just going to kind of go through this, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jeff. He can kind of take the lead with tonight's training. Of course, if you guys got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Gary did reach out to me. He said that he wanted to apologize once again. Of course, this is the middle of basketball season, so he's actually been going out observing officials, evaluating officials, doing interviews and different things that requires which is part of his responsibilities. So he apologized, but he said he'll try to make it on the call if he can. As soon as he gets done doing what he has to do this evening. All right, but again, we'll just kind of just jump through a couple of things on here, and these are obviously things that they want all of us to know as officials and be aware of. If any points of emphasis, any updates in regards to rules, expectations, how they want us to officiate plays or situations, rules, what have you. They'll typically put this out a few times through each sports season. In this case, this is the basketball season. So again, the official state of series availability. If an official needs to update their IHSA official center calendar, availability calendar due to schedule change after 1/1/26, they must email Chris and Beth with those updates. So make sure if you are planning on working the state series tournament and you have not updated your availability calendar, you need to log into your official center and update that as soon as possible. I will say this, especially since the pandemic, every year when we start the state series games on the boys and girls sides, they're definitely looking for officials. So if you are interested in working, you don't necessarily have to be a certified official to work either, but if you are available, make sure you check off your availability dates in the official center in your calendar, so that way they can contact you. And if by chance, let's say you do fill out the calendar, they don't contact you, you can, maybe shoot them an email just to say, hey, if you need me, I'm available, da 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 da. Also, just so you know, this IHSA actually asks all of the assigners to submit a top 15 list throughout Illinois every year for every sport. So any assigners for any sport, in this case, obviously basketball, if you're an assigner or have been an assigner, you know about this already. But we submit a top 15 list of officials to the IHSA. They take that list and they make decisions to decide on who they feel should work the state series tournaments in different locations based on availability, based on how many games they may have at such and such a location versus that location A versus location B. But all we do is submit that information to them, that top 15 list of names of officials. But they make the decision on who works where. That is not a decision that the assigners make. That's not a decision that we have an input on as far as I want Jeff Rutledge and Steve Alexander to work Hillcrest versus Bloom. We don't have any say so in that. We just submit the list and they do what they do from their perspective. All right. The mercy rule is still in effect. So again, if 30 points or more by the fourth quarter, if a team is up by 30 or more, the clock should run. On time it stops is basically timeouts or an injury or officials timeout, if that's the case. All right. NFHS rules must be followed even if a shootout manager asks the officiating crew to hold their whistle to please fans. Again, they want us to enforce the National Federation rules. Obviously, those are the rules that we're all governed by. Each state has certain modifications, but again, we are responsible for enforcing the National Federation basketball rules. So again, this is their way of saying, hey, we put this information out. We expect all officials, coaches, teams, players, schools to abide by these rules and guidelines. Again, we are responsible for enforcing the rules accordingly. All right, the uniform player equipment rules have not changed. All players are expected to comply with National Federation rules, and all officials are expected to enforce them during contests. Again, enforce the rules. Any questions about anything in that section so far? Anything about the officials availability series calendar, the mercy rule, NFHS rules, or uniform rules before we move on?
Cool. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Um, Mercy rule.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a rule that says a team can't press during
No,
mercy rule time?
no, there is no rule. Actually,
Yeah, okay.
it's ironic you mentioned that. I just had an official call me in one of the team two of the teams that was playing in my conference where that happened. um, where the mercy rules in effect. A team might have been winning by 40 some points or something like that. I think they told me. And the opposing coach as well as the officials felt like the coach that was winning, let's say Coach A, who was winning by 40 plus points, Coach B, and even the officials felt like, hey, they shouldn't still be pressing, but they were still pressing. So the kind of goes into a conversation of, I guess, back in the day where they talk about the sport, the integrity of sportsmanship, in the game. Now, there is no rule that says that a coach that's winning by that many points has to stop pressing. Typically, it's just kind of like a unwritten rule to respect the fact that we're not trying to embarrass the opposing players or the opposing teams. So typically most coaches will stop pressing, but there is no rule that states that they have to stop pressing if they're just because they're winning by 30 plus or 40 plus points or how many points they're winning by under mercy rule. All right. Bryce, you said my question is about postseason. I've been told that a first year official cannot do state series. Is this at all accurate? Since I would say post pandemic, they've been modifying that rule. I'm aware of some officials who were registered officials, maybe, first, second year. Again, it's based on the availability of who's available, as well as how many openings the state, IHSA has to fill. That part
Let
again,
me address that too,
yeah,
first of
yeah,
all.
I
that,
have something too when
yeah,
you finish, Jeff.
I just want to address that.
yeah, hold on, Jeff, real quick. So that part
Okay, I'm
again,
sorry.
as an assigner, we have no control over. Again, all we do is submit our top 15 lists as assigners throughout the state. The state decides who's going to go work where. Um, some of it, since like I said, since the pandemic, they have been reaching out to officials who may only have a few years in, or if somebody just may happen to be available, they may use them. But that's usually just maybe for the first maybe round or two. Typically after that, they try to go with the certified officials. But I'll let Jeff and Steve kind of chime in on that as well. Go ahead, Jeff.
All I wanted to say is that there's no hard, fast rule about that. And also in the last few years, they have changed uh, they've changed some games, which we used to call affectionately the play-in game. Those are assigned by local assigners for the conference. If the team is hosting, the assigners can assign that first game, and that I think at the girls, it's that Saturday before the regionals, and I think the boys it's the Monday before the regionals, and they can assign it. They can assign anybody they want to that's available, and a lot of it is availability at that point because because those days are not necessarily free for everybody. But then after that, the semifinals and the championship of the regional are assigned by the state. It is very unlikely that a first year or second year official will work that. but there have been situations in which Clarence is referencing. There have been some situations where they have made some exceptions because it might be literally a couple hours before game time. I think that happened when the first year they did this format. It used to be all signed by the state, so they kind of went to this model, which I'm not in agreement with. And also they went to a model where they play the semifinals in the same day, which has kind of made the availability of officials really trying because you're asking the entire state to basically cover every playoff game or every game, and what they try to do is not have two official work both games, but that's even happened because they just had some availability. I think that's a change that probably needs to be made differently because they used to kind of stagger them, but for some reason they thought this was a good idea, so this is what has happened. But there's no hard fast rule. But the reality is, and this is why promotion is important, because if you get promoted you start off as X official, what we call registered. Then after 2 years or 2 seasons, you can go for promotion to be recognized. And then after another 2 seasons, you can go to become certified. And once you become certified, as long as you're in good standing, you get to maintain your certified status the rest of your career. That may change. There are some things that they've done a little differently, but basically, once you get to that status, you don't have to give it up. And as long as you pay your dues and you don't get suspended or put on probation, you will not lose that status. And then basically, the goal is, and this is stated by the IHSA, to be a certified official is the preferred, and they will use them for regionals and throughout. And it's probably almost impossible to work past a regional as a non-certified official. Just isn't. But the reality is if we get promoted, this is why we talk about this a lot. If we get our promotion, then you are in a good standing for that to take place. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about that. But there's no hard, fast rule. I mean, and I'm saying this because you might know of an example, or someone might know of an example of a first year official, but usually first year officials, I'm gonna be really honest with those of you who've just done it a few years, working a postseason game is a very different experience and comes with a lot more pressure. And even that game that is a playing game that doesn't seem like they are going to go much further, it's still a playoff game, and it comes with pressures and things, and you got to be really on top of stuff in those situations because this is literally the end of kids' career at that point. When them games are over, a lot of those kids will never play again at that kind of level, other than maybe at the local gym or something like that. So we don't want to put you in that situation. Not just the state doesn't want to put you in that situation. It's a very different time. And as you move through the ranks of those playoffs, the intensity, the crowds, the the things that you think that nobody cares about, they care about in those playoff games. Because if you affect their game, they don't forget too quickly. So that's really what I wanted to say about that. I hope that answers the question. Steve might have something to add to that.
Yeah, I'll just say this real before Steve says anything. This is really where a lot of your training will come into play. Is during the state series games or anything close towards the end of the basketball season. So, definitely like Jeff said, it's a different animal. It's not your typical local conference game where it's team A, team B, and oh, it's no big deal. It's a very big deal. All eyes. Sometimes you may even have news media there. So those are things. That's why we say the training that we're implementing and that we're trying to get everybody to take advantage of is so important because you're talking to people who have worked state final series, who have worked very competitive games that can give you advice on how to manage those situations. Go ahead, Steve.
I've worked with Best Thousands for the many years that I was an assigner, and they began to have a habit. So take advantage of this if you can, of when they exhaust the certified people. And that's mostly at the regional level, because at the regional level, everybody across the state is playing and they need officials. So they have a habit of calling and saying, who's your best non certified official? And then you would give them, as the assigner, the name, and they will pass, they will contact that person. And I just use Jeff as an example and say, how you available on this day, blah, blah, blah. But it is extremely rare that I've seen a first or second year official get a regional. Now, I'm going to be more blunt than Jeff. Be careful what you ask for. Okay, we are littered today with referees moving up fast. That doesn't mean you're ready. I had a kid tell me at one Christmas tournament that I'm a Big Dipper referee. And I literally walked away from it. I said, congratulations. Be happy that you are in the Big Dipper. But that doesn't mean you've arrived. That means there's a need. And the biggest problem with us as people is our ego. We will sit down and litter our brain with saying, I'm ready, I'm ready. But when you get in that packed house and somebody's going to lose and go home, and you got to get to your car and got to deal with all those folks that lost because they think it's you, be prepared for that. That's what playoffs is all about. But they do have a habit of doing that, Coop. And I'm saying take advantage of that because that'll be a way to get some folks that you deem ready to do a playoff into the state tournament.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And let me add one more thing to that, Steve. I think it was year 9 or close to 9 or 8 before I got my first regional, and I've worked them every year since, but it took a while. And matter of fact, it wasn't even the first year I got certified. I think it was 2 years in, and they used to do, it was 2 classes, so they had a little bit more pick of who they wanted to use because of how they staggered the days. So I didn't get it my first few times, and to be honest with you, when I was going up the ranks and getting sectionals. I'm glad I didn't get a sectional too early because there are different games. Actually, that sectional final is probably the hardest game to work from a emotional standpoint because it's the last game on a high school floor. Or in most of the cases, there are some sec supers that are run in on high school floors, but especially when you start getting to the sectional final level, that's the last time, and that sometimes is the last real big packed enclosed house game. You don't want that opportunity until you're ready, because there's so many things that come with that, and those teams are playing for their lives and their reputations, and there's a lot on the line for coaches or whatever. It's just a different animal. So, but I would suggest this to everybody: go watch them, go watch and participate in them. Meaning, be a fan, and if you're an official, obviously you go in and ask, hey, can I, sit in on your pregame or whatever. That sometimes is very acceptable. We actually like it when we get people who come into the locker room and want to, listen to what we talk about. And sometimes there's some logistical aspects to that because there's a lot of security and all this other stuff too. But if that's something you desire to do, we have listings. There's an extra website that puts out all this information. You can find out where somebody is working, and if you know their name, and you can look them up and contact them and say, hey, I would like to come in and sit on your pregame. That is actually a good thing, because then you get to understand the atmosphere. Because see, the other thing about the postseason, there's a rigorous schedule. That it's not just, oh, okay, we just get there and then they go put any old time on the clock. They wait, and they got to start at that time, and all this. They sometimes pop at circumstance, and they used to do a 3-point contest. They used to have that all very scheduled out. It still is. And so it's not like a regular game where we show up and then, oh, well, we don't mind starting 5 minutes earlier because we're going to do all this other stuff. It's very different atmosphere. It's a lot of fun, but it's you don't want to get there too soon. But to prepare yourself is to go watch guys work regional finals and sectionals, and then you kind of get an idea of what that is. So when you get your first one of those situations, you are in a good mental state that at least you've seen what it looks like instead of showing up and just working. And it's not just showing up and working. It's a pregame. It's a lot that goes into it if you take this seriously. Um,
Oh, absolutely. I'll just want to just piggyback off what you said as far as, and what Steve said, making sure that you're ready to handle those types of games. It is a different environment. It's not like any other environment you may have experienced before. Um, and there's plenty of pressure. And not only just the fans and the teams and the coaches, but you also had a state watching you too. So, you know, if you're trying to advance, you got to bring your A game, literally your A game, not your C game, not your D game, not your B game, your A game, so you have to be prepared for that. Um, but yeah, definitely, if you know, like you said, if you know anybody that's doing the pregame, I mean, doing the working those games, if you know them or if you happen to reach out to them, if they invite you in the locker room, I've always was taught, and the way I came up was be a sponge, just sit and listen. If they ask you questions, then you ask your question. But other than that, just be a sponge, soak it all in. And if maybe sometimes at halftime you might not get a chance to get in, but maybe after the game, you might be able to ask some questions. But typically, we want the officials that's working the game to have their own, pregame as well as their halftime conversation or meeting to discuss whatever adjustments they need to make, so that way they can be prepared to, officiate the remainder of the game. All right.
Oh, Clarence,
So
could I add
yeah,
something really quick?
go
Quick,
ahead.
Clarence. My first playoff assignment was an emergency call the night before because the baby came early.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
be
I
ready.
mean,
And yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was going to say, I know last year specifically, Beth had reached out to me to fill a couple of last minute spots. But again, she was looking for people, even though they weren't. This is for the regional now. This is the first round for the regionals, but she was looking for people because everybody that they tried to contact was either not available or was already assigned to games. So, even your assigners are not going to just say, hey, I'm gonna put Jeff Rutledge out there. This is his first year, and I know he's not really ready. No, because they know that it's higher stakes on these games. So we need to have people that have some type of experience and a strong confidence. You have to be really strong and confident, not cocky, but confident. So that way, when you go out here, you're representing not just your assigner, but you're representing the IHSA as well. All right. The alternate home uniform request, and let me talk about this real quick, just so that you are aware. There are teams that may have like a pink night or a cancer awareness or some special event. They have to get approval from the IHSA to wear alternate color uniforms for that specific event. That is a form that they have to fill out online and get approved. So if you happen to work a game or ask to work a game like that, uh, those teams have to show the official documentation that they've been approved by the IHSA. They cannot just say, "Oh well, we didn't know this," because now our license is in jeopardy. Okay, so the IHSA wants everything to be, documented, from their perspective, to state that hey, we approve such and such a school to wear pink uniforms on such and such a day for their pink out event for cancer awareness. This has been approved, and they'll put that in a letter, giving it to the AD or to the coach of the school. But they're supposed to present that before the start of the game to the officials so that that this has been approved by the IHSA. All right. Bench warning, coaches warnings. Again, it must be verbal. Okay. Again, it's all in writing. I'm showing this again. This is just hit everybody's email today at 6:00 p.m. IHSA Basketball Insider. So make sure you go back and review this. I'm just touching on this stuff real quick so that you'll know the points of emphasis that this IHSA is asking us to be aware of and what to enforce. So the coach's warning. So again, it must be a verbal warning signal to the coach, followed by it being reported to the scorer. The scorer must put this warning in the score book. I know a lot of times we as officials, we talk about this. We talk about, hey, we gave the coach a warning or we gave the player a warning or whatever the case may be. But if in regards to the coach, it must be a verbal warning and it must be a written warning. Okay, so they must write it in the book. Where they're going to write it, there's nothing that specifically says where they have to write it, but they need to write down what quarter it happened in, what time, and make sure that it goes to the appropriate coach. So if it's Team A's coach, then it goes to Team A. If it's Team B's coach, then it goes to Team B. But it must be documented. So if there's a second warning, if there's a second issue or bench situation, then we know that we gave this warning to Coach A at such and such a quarter, at such and such a time. And that way we have documentation in case there's any discrepancy in regards to that. All right.
And let me add just to this, guys. This is if you decide to put this in the book. There are some informal actions if you feel then that would work. I'm only saying this because every time I give a bench warning, I give a technical foul. So and that happened last week. So you can do other warnings. That's okay. But once you are done with that warning, and it's maybe you wanted to give a technical foul, use this warning, and then have it put in the book. The other warning, and it also is not necessary. If it's blatant action on sporting behavior, you have every right to give a technical foul. So they emphasized that a couple of years ago. It is not a requirement. So no, if you give a technical foul and you didn't give this warning, if a coach tries to say that they didn't give me a warning, well, your behavior was not acceptable for a warning. Your behavior was for a technical foul. So this is an option that you have. Try to use it. Again, some officials, we didn't have this for a long time. We might have given the stop sign, or we might have done some other things to kind of get the point across. And there are coaches where those other informal warnings work. But if it just doesn't, put this in the book. It's like a sideline warning in football, which we have used for years to actually perfection, and it's not for them, getting in their way. It's just, if we just want to give a warning, and it usually stopped everything. Basketball, not so much, but just keep this in mind. This is an option, and use this tool if you deem necessary.
All right. Shot clock information. Again, this information has been posted on the IHSA website. I will show you where it is. If you go under the IHSA.org, click under sports activities, either boys or girls, it doesn't matter, basketball. When you go there, click on resources, which is over here. All right. Once you click there, you scroll down and you'll see all of these different documents that you can view. So this is why I say you guys got to get familiar with this information, because again, we're held responsible for knowing this information. So you need to know that. So here where it says shot clock, okay, all of these documents underneath this section is what they're referring to. Okay, all of this stuff was posted during the preseason of this year. Myself, Jeff, Gary, Tracy, a few other people were primarily kind of really pushing this envelope to get this information on the website. So through a lot of research that we have been doing, a lot of discussion, Beth and Chris were able to get this posted on the website. Again, all these different documentations. Get familiar with these, because guess what? When you go to camps and clinics starting this summer, you're going to hear a lot of conversations about shot clock. So you need to know these rules. There's some example situations or case scenario situations dealing with the shot clock that's in document form. We are trying to work on one more document, I think, that we're trying to get up there. We haven't finalized it yet. But typically these are the ones that right now that have been approved by Gary, who is our state interpreter, as well as Beth and Chris from IHSA. So again, get familiar with those and get very familiar with them. But this is a point of reference where you can find them in case you have a discrepancy or discussions with other officials or coaches. This is where you find that information. Again, the same thing is under girls. If you go to basketball, you click on girls, click on the resources, and scroll down. And where is it at? Shot clock situations. When you click here, you'll see documentation talking about this. So these are shot clock situations that some examples that we were able to put on the website. So this is great for those that are new to shot clock, or even those that may work the college level. Again, you'll know what we're doing here in IHSA and how to adjudicate these different rules. So these are different case scenarios. Basically, it's like your case book, but just in shot clock context. I believe there are 28 different situations. Again, get familiar with those, because some of these were more common things that have happened at the high school level dealing with shot clocks. Some of them actually college was some college plays too, but they modified it for high school. But again, we have a 35-second shot clock with a 20-second reset. All right, so get familiar with that. All right, but you'll find out that again under the IHSA website. All right, and state finals schedule. If you want to know about the girls' state final schedule, you click the link here. The boys' state final schedules. Again, they have all of the dates, locations, times. Typically, the state final series starts at, was it 6? I believe 6 and 7 or 6 and 7:30, depending on the location. Typically, or 7, I should say 7 and maybe 8 or something like that, depending on the location. But between 6, 7, or 8, that's typically where they'll have those games played throughout the state of Illinois. All right, and I get it. Had a couple people ask me about the approved ball. It's actually the Wilson Evo ball. It does have the NCAA logo on it. That's the new kind of bright orange ball that they're using at the college level. It has been approved to be used at the high school level. So if it has the logo on it, just know that you can actually still use that ball, but that is the approved ball from the IHSA. All right, and then again on this side over here, you'll see different dates, important dates that's on the right-hand side for administrators and coaches. Again, just gives you date summaries for officials. Again, your availability calendar, get that done as soon as possible. You'll have to contact Chris or Beth if you haven't done that at this point to let them know your open dates. And then here, the girls state series dates are here and the boys state series dates are here. So again, you can go through all that information. Again, they sent this email out to all basketball officials. They do it for every sport. Just so you know, so if you do other sports, you'll get updates for that particular sport, but this is in relationship to basketball. All right. Any questions about any of this information so far? Does everybody know how to even know where the officials availability calendar is located? You can unmute and speak up if you need to, ask a question or if you're not sure.
It's an arbiter, correct? Our eligibility.
No, it's in your official center. So when you go log in,
well, it's actually on the main page.
Is it on the main page?
It's on the main page.
Oh,
you can get to it through that, but it's on the IHSA.org. Not IHSA.com. That's a horse website, a horse racing website, or some kind of site. So IHSA.org will send you to that. And it is in the basketball hub.
Oh, it is.
So unless they added it on they could have. They might have.
I think on here they put it under the official center.
Okay, they might have. The last I did it was I go to the IHSA website, but either one, maybe try that. But it's definitely under basketball.
So when you go in,
added it. Did they add it under education?
I'm just logged in under my account, but it's here where it says, in addition, you should regularly monitor and update your daily availability calendar. This is what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where you would go and you would check off the dates. Make sure you read all of the directions, please, because some people just go ahead and start clicking stuff, but they don't read the directions. Please read the directions, because whenever you hit the save button at the bottom left, that's what's going to go to the IHSA, and that's what they're going to go by. And then if you have any changes to that, you need to go back and update the changes and click save, because again, this is going to update in real time so that Beth and Chris and those at the IHSA office, they'll know how to figure out what days you're available to work versus what days you're not available to work. So is this similar to what Arbiter, kind of like how Arbiter functions? Yes, it is similar to that, but they just want you to check off the days that you are not available to work. So that's why you see that in red up here. They said, the red squares on the calendar indicate dates that you are not able to work. So make sure you just go in. You can check. So if you're not able to work February 4th, boom, check that date, save it, or however many other dates you save it, and then you go from there. All right. Any questions on that? This is very, very, very important. Just like updating your Arbiter schedules. For those of you all that have assigners that assign through Arbiter, again, check your schedules every day. Check your Arbiter every day. As we get to this time of year, there are probably more games happening on the same days this time of year, going into the playoff state series more than ever. So it's really important that you check your dates. The IHSA will be checking Arbiter calendar dates as well for, I believe, state tournament series. So they'll be checking this daily availability calendar, but if you do have some dates in Arbiter, they can also check that as well. Okay, but this is the primary calendar that they're going to go by, just so you know, for the state series. All right, any questions about that?
Well, and just so you know, you do not have to put every date in the in the on
Right.
the that you're closed. It's only for the games that you're going to work at the state series or the
Correct.
dates for those state series.
Correct.
So, and I will say this too. The other thing is for those who are aspiring to work postseason, you might want to be aware that some assigners do not want you to necessarily get off their games. So be aware of that. That could also become a conflict if you are, you have a boys varsity game during the girls state series or one of the days or a college game or something like that. They may not take too kindly. So, prepare for that in the future. But and yes, there are some assigners who have no issues, but there are some I know that have a very attitude about you getting off games to work uh the state series. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that that's just a reality.
All right. So on the bottom of this page, and we'll touch on this, I would encourage you to click on these. This is just something that I've learned over the years. I would strongly encourage you to pay attention to the state rule adoptions. They update this every year. Typically, it's the same thing, but just you need to know this because now these are the rules they expect you to implement during the state series. So maybe for your local assigners that you work for, they may have different rules for those different conferences. Now, once your state series applies, you have to follow the state series rules. They're not going to send you an email to say, hey, don't forget to read these rules. They expect you to go into the IHSA website and read this information yourself. So again, you need to do your due diligence by looking for the information. Go to the website, click on the different links, find the information, be aware of the information. You'd be surprised. Every single year I work the state series tournament, I'm working with partners. I always ask them, hey, do you know what the state rules adoptions are? They look at me like, what are you talking about? Because they don't go read. So again, you are responsible. The state expects you to know these things. Why is that important? Because if you go in here and you don't apply, let's say number one is the mercy rule. Let's say you don't apply the mercy rule. Well, guess what? Those two teams are going to report you. They're going to report that whole crew, and the whole crew is going to take the hit for that. Okay, so that may stop you from advancing to the next round if you are eligible to advance. So you don't want those little things to bite you in the butt, so to speak. So again, be familiar with these new the state adoption rules. Know about these. Again, we're not using shot clock this year for state series tournament, but starting next year, from the beginning preseason all the way through the state series tournament, they will be using shot clock. So again, during the summertime of this summer coming up, 2026, I would highly encourage you to go to clinics and camps, things that are going to be using shot clock, because this is where things are going to be going. Will every school have shot clocks next year? Probably not. But those schools that do have it, you need to be prepared to work it. So any given day, you may walk into a gym and they may have shot clock. You got to know the rules. You're expected to know the rules for shot clock and enforce those rules accordingly. Again, we know there's going to be some bumps in the road, the learning curve. Some teams don't know it. Some officials don't know it. Some coaches don't know it. We get that. But if they're using it, you are expected as an official to implement those rules for shot clock. So again, get in the rule book, start studying this information, because this is not going anywhere. It's going to be here and it's going to stay here once it comes next year. All right. Any questions on that? All right. So now also here, boys and girls terms and conditions. All of this doesn't necessarily apply to officials, but I still would recommend that you just be aware of it, because it does talk about a lot of things that you may need to just be aware of in general. Most of this is for the site managers, the schools to know things of that nature, but it's still good for you to know all of this information, because now these are legal binding documents. And you, again, as an IHSA official, anytime you accept a contest, you are agreeing to follow all rules and regulations that the IHSA has set forth. So again, just maybe skim through it, find the stuff that's important to you, or is for you and your crew. Again, you may want to, just know that information just for record, for your own personal records and own personal knowledge. All right. But they talk about everything, and they do this for boys and girls state series. So they have a girls document, they have a boys document. Obviously, the dates are different because the girls have their state series. They start the state series before the boys. But again, the information is pertaining to the different sites, different locations, the different times, what the alternate backup plan may be if something bad weather or whatever, all of that kind of stuff. They have all of that in the terms and conditions. So again, and also if you work state series, you will be getting communication from the athletic director of the site that you're going to be officiating at. So you may get maybe you might get assigned to go to referee at Glenbard North High School. Well, that AD is going to reach out to that crew ahead of time to let you know, hey, this is what time the games are. This is where the parking is. This is where you need to go to. I'll meet you here or there, whatever whatever the information that they're going to share, they're going to send it via email. Why is that important? You need to check your email on a regular basis. Things can change. They may send you an email today saying, hey, thanks, Clarence, for for working our state series tournament. Looking forward to working with you. The parking lot is on the east side of the building. Make sure you get there by such and such a time. Walk through the door. Security will escort you to the locker room. Okay, great. Now I know all of that information. That's my expectations. When I get to the parking lot, I'm parking in the east parking lot. Once I come in the door, security is going to meet me there. I may have to search. They may have to search my bags or whatever the security rules are. We must follow those rules. Each school is independently ran by the administrator at that school. We have to still follow those rules. Okay, we can't just come in and say, well, I'm here to referee, so I don't have to check my bag. No, you're still a visitor in that building. You have to follow local school rules and local laws, whatever that may be. So just be respectful, be professional. Again, you don't want to get rolled up because, oh, Clarence came through the door acting like he's holier than thou and he didn't want to check his bag, da 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 da. Because guess who they're gonna send that email to? To the IHSA. Now you wondering why come they taking your games away from you or whatever the case may be. So these little things that we've been training on that you've been hearing about over through the years, being professional on and off the court, all of this stuff applies because these people, you may not have ever worked a game at Glenbard North High School, but guess what? When you go there, they expect you to be professional. They expect you to be courteous. Be that way from the moment you get to that parking lot to the moment you leave that parking lot. Okay, that's what you want to do. All right. So again, just wanted to touch on this information again. Check your email for the document. IHSA Basketball Insider. They'll probably be sending out a few more of these. Usually within, I think they send out maybe like once a week or once every couple of weeks throughout the season. So again, you get all the updates there and click on the link so that you know all the information. Any questions? No questions? Not one about anything?
Well, we have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, we answered the first year question.
Yeah.
You said, Khalil, you said you'd like to get some clarification on Rule 281. All right. What can you just, while I look for it real quick, can you explain what Rule 281 is?
Yeah, it's basically just the rules saying that officials have the authority to uh discipline or deal with any misconduct from anyone. And the note is basically talking about how to deal with fans. My question is, it says that fouls can be given to either team, and it says it just like that. I don't have the book on me right now, but when I was looking at it earlier, it says fouls can be given to either team depending on, how unruly the fan is or whatever. I just want to clarify that when they say fouls, that's referring to technical fouls. And if so, how is that exactly being administered? Is that just a discretion thing, which is what it sounded like it is? Or, just yeah, just if you could just go through how to deal with an unruly fan.
Okay, real quick before
uh,
you do that, you said Rule 28, was this in the Federation rule book or was that
it's two,
the
it's
Yeah,
two, it's 281. It talks about officials' jurisdiction can give unsporting behavior to unsporting like conduct to any. It says the players, coaches, and participants and fans kind of are related to that. Let me just address that. There's case plays about this. We do not want to make a habit of penalizing fans for multiple reasons because we may not know who is doing what. That's why it says in the note is to use game management and have them take care of any situations that could be considered unruly or out of the bounds. Always use game management to deal with this. Do not just arbitrarily penalize a fan because for one, we you could have fans doing something. You could be at a site and it's actually the visiting fans or maybe even somebody who's not associated with either school. So don't be in a hurry to penalize any spectator or whatever. If they're associated like cheerleaders and maybe the band, that's a little different because we may be able to determine who those people are in the situation. But I would still say that is an absolute utter last resort. It is something you use game management, and if you have to hold up the game to take care of an issue, hold up the game to take care of an issue, and don't continue the game until the issue is taken care of. Especially depending on what is taking place. And obviously, if safety is an issue, then we should never continue with if we think the players, the participants, yourself are in danger because of something that is happening in the stands. I've even seen where players have engaged fans that have caused issues. I've never given a technical foul for that. I've just removed the fan and penalize maybe the player or the participant if they do something that is causing an issue. But try your best to avoid team people, to penalize a team for the actions of somebody that's just sitting in the stands. If they're on the bench, if they're some other thing that's different, but just be careful with that.
Great. I know you said when will clinics start and when and where the soonest clinics for new refs to get practice and learn. Well, for those that don't know, or if you're brand new, those who've been around, you know the routine. You have to go to the IHSA website under the clinics, under the official center, look for clinics. You'll see any clinics that are listed there. Because, like I said, because the shot clock will be enforced next year for those schools that have it. Again, every school may not have a shot clock. Obviously, if they don't have a shot clock at this point, the IHSA obviously hasn't said anything in writing, but obviously we're going to assume that you're going to just referee the game just like how we do now without shot clock. But if they do have shot clock, they are expecting those games, at least the boys and varsity games, which has been put in writing to be officiated with shot clock. Now, as far as the lower level games, your sophomore, your freshman, your JVs, that's based on a school district or school conference level decision. So if those administrators in that conference or that school district decide, hey, we want to use shot clock for all levels, for our freshmen, our JV, our sophomores, and our varsity, then they're doing shot clock for all the levels. If they say that we're just doing boys and girls varsity, then they're just doing boys and girls varsity. It can vary from conference to conference. It can vary, based on what rules they set forth. But the IHSA did say boys and girls varsity are expected to use shot clock for those that obviously have shot clock starting next school year. All right. So, but yeah, check the clinics out to find out like who's offering clinics. I know during the month of June, it's called, I guess they call it open season, where they can play as their teams, the actual IHSA teams for basketball. That's typically where a lot of the clinics will be held because they'll have different shootouts or shootouts where they have a whole bunch of teams at different locations, and officials will have, or clinicians will have clinics based around those shootouts, which makes logical sense because you got a bunch of games, you got a bunch of officials who need clinic credit, put them in the same venue, same atmosphere, take care of the clinic credit, but also because the level 2 clinic, you have to referee games. So obviously if it's a level 2 clinic and they're doing those shootouts, wherever they may be, city, suburbs, you're kind of getting both, which is the requirement of the IHSA to have actual game experience for level 2 clinic credit. But again, we'll be doing a lot of people will be doing a shot clock. That's why we were so adamant about getting those shot clock documents on the website. Again, they're available to the public already, so you can go on and get familiar with that information right now. So you don't have to wait until to a clinic to start reading that information. I would advise you to start getting familiar with those rules now. And that's another reason why we've been doing these trainings, because periodically we've been going over shot clock plays to kind of bring those rules on paper to life. So it makes more sense because we know some people are visual learners. So we wanted to kind of have that documentation for the coaches and the teams and the officials, but also we're going to try to put together a shot clock training video that kind of discusses some of those actual shot clock case plays to kind of put it all to life to help people kind of understand how it works.
Coop, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
To the young man who asked about the fans, did you have a situation where you felt like you wanted to get a fan out of the game?
Khalil?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Did you have a situation recently where you felt like you wanted a fan to be removed from the game.
Yes.
Okay, well, it helps everybody, including you, if you explain the situation and what you did, because everybody's tolerance level is not the same.
Yeah. Basically what happened was I was at what school was that? I can't remember right now, but there was a no call that well, I guess I could say I didn't make. A fan was upset that there was a no call, and she was screaming at me, using a lot of expletives. She was sitting in the first row, and the gym was almost silent. So it's not like you could pretend you didn't hear it, or it's not like you can avoid it. And it was going on for at least, I'd say, 30 seconds, which is a long time. Um, because of the nature of what she was saying, MFing me and, all that stuff. I told the game security that she had to leave. She initially refused. It became this whole thing. Um, she was saying that, she didn't, quote unquote, I didn't do nothing wrong. He's doing too much and all that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, it was an annoying situation to deal with, but yeah, that's basically what happened.
And what was the result? Did she leave?
She she left the gym, but stayed like right outside the gym door. Um, and security was standing next to her. She ended up coming back into the gym in the fourth quarter, but she was silent after that. So
I have a question real quick. Was this an IHSA game?
yes,
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, what level?
this was the JV game.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Steve, if I think you wanted to.
Yeah. Again, everybody's tolerance level, even with the folks that's on this call, is different. Okay. If you feel in any way that she's up under your skin, she got to go. And she can't come back in the gym. If I see her back in the gym, the game is over.
But he was saying she was swearing at him. That's quite a bit.
Well, it's quite a bit for you. There are those of us that been on games where you hear swearing coming out throughout the gym. You got 3,000-4,000 people in the gym.
And furthermore, you even got coaches swearing at the kids.
You got coaches swearing. Yeah. So again, it's all about your tolerance level. If your tolerance level is such that you don't want to put up with that, then shut it down. Okay. Now, I was at a game Saturday morning. It was a freshman game. And we had a parent she was a bit out there. And the guy said to the AD, "Hey, can you get her to calm down?" Well, at that point, I would have said, "No, she got to go," because she was, as my grandmother would say, she was clowning. And they gave her a warning. Well, they wound up warning her 3 times. And the guy looked at me and says, "What would you do?" It doesn't matter what I would do. I'm sitting there watching the game just like her. If it's bothering you, she's got to go. And again, you got to understand our tolerance level as people is different. Some of us take a lot of stuff. Some of us don't take a lot of stuff. It doesn't matter. What you're going to take is what you're going to take. And I would say if she's swearing and she's that loud, she want to have a megaphone in her mouth, she got to have a megaphone outside the gym. She's got to go. And again, you have to have the wherewithal, the knowledge to be able to say, and sometimes the courage to be able to say, "Hey, this person has got to go." But you cannot talk to the person yourself. And a lot of officials are failing in that aspect because they go talk to the fan itself, and then it becomes an argument. Right. The best referees, I tell people all the time, I'm the best referee in the state of Illinois ever, as long as I'm sitting down watching the game. When I get out there in my 38 plus years, they're going to scream at me as much as they're screaming at you, maybe even more. They do the same thing with Jeff. They do the same thing with Coop. That's what fans do. You either listen to it and deal with it, or keep doing what you're doing and move on.
And let me say this, as a from a procedural standpoint too. Anytime we eject somebody, even a fan, or we're participating in ejecting a fan, that is what we call a special report. Needs to be filled out. And also, special reports are not only used for ejections; they are also used for potential
Concussion.
like issues at a school. So like if there was something happening and an administrator doesn't do their job that you are inclined to ask them to do, you can file a report on that school and that administration as well. And I'd say we can do that because the state needs to know that when there are people who do not the schools who do not follow protocol, they put a lot of us in jeopardy, and not just the officials, the participants as well. So we need to probably file a special report with that to let the state know. And trust me, they don't want those reports, because if they don't throw out in a fan that is unruly or whatever, and that causes some other issues, that can cause some problems with the state. Also, if there are a host of other events that the IHSA runs, that can put that in consideration. They don't want those reports. So, but you have a right to write them. And again, also I would contact your assigner and let them know that this was an issue, because then the assigner can also address that from their front. But they do not want these reports from the IHSA, because if the game management, let's say, is not the AD, and the AD finds out about that, well, that's part of their responsibility. And then that goes up the chain to principals and sometimes superintendents if they don't deal with issues, because if something else happens, then they're all put in a liability situation. So you have every right. Guys, that's why it's so important to read these documents, to know what our protocols are and our rules are, because if we know those things, we can always insist that coaches know what those situations are. And matter of fact, next week we're going to have a talk about that very thing, kind of from the legal standpoint, because this opens up a whole door. School districts do not want to be in a situation where they are keeping people that are being unruly and disrespectful and maybe even threatening people in situations, because then now that school district is now, if something happens, even if it happens later and they didn't address it, they can be held wildly responsible. So,
right. So we have a guest speaker who actually is a IAABO member as well, named he's a sports attorney named Alan Goldberger. He's going to be our guest speaker on the 26th, which is the Monday after MLK Day. He's going to be talking about the legal side of what we deal with as officials. He's also official. He officiated basketball and soccer. He's based out of the East Coast, but he's going to be on talking about the legal side of officiating and the consequences when we don't enforce the rules, or if the school, like in this particular example, doesn't enforce the rule. They don't want to support the official when they're asking this fan to be ejected, and God forbid something happens after that. Now that school is being liable. So he's going to talk about a lot of the things. So I highly encourage you to share that information, invite people to get on a call on the 26th at 7 p.m. We'll be here. Alan Goldberger, he's going to talk about anything. He's going to answer your questions. So for those of you all that may have questions, or maybe you had a situation kind of like what Khalid was talking about, and you want to get some clarification on it in regards to from a legal aspect, he can try to address those questions for you. All right, but definitely try to invite people to come out. I think this is probably one aspect, and this is one of the reasons why we're trying to kind of get these different resources to you guys, because these are some of the things that we don't really talk about a lot, either in camps, clinics, or training sessions, that we need to know, so that way we're not putting ourselves in a liability or possible or potential liability situation. And just to throw an example out there, let's just say myself, Jeff, and Steve are on a crew refereeing a game. And let's say Steve makes a call that we know is not really the right call to make, or he does something that, that's not a part of what the rule says, or he deliberately does something that's not a part of the rules. Well, he put not just himself in a potential situation, he put the whole crew in a legal situation. Now, Jeff and I didn't have anything to do with the call or him making the call or his decision for why he made the call. But legally, we can still be held liable. So these are the reasons why we want to have these conversations so you can know what your rights are. You can know what you should and should not be doing or what your partners should and should not be doing. Or making a decision to say, hey, whoa, wait a minute now. Oh, you making some decisions that I can't go with. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. But again, that's going to be on Monday the 26th at 7 p.m. He's going to be our guest speaker on the Zoom call. So definitely try to invite as many people as you can to hear sports attorney Alan Goldberger. He's one of the top sports attorneys in the country, actually. He deals with a lot of stuff on the NBA level as well as college, as well as high school. So definitely come with your questions ready for Monday the 26th.
Okay, so I heard you guys say about you have to, if you eject a fan, you have to fill out a report. Is that even at the lower levels, like at elementary, and as long as it's under the IHSA and not like a feeder program?
Yes. So if you have any situations that happen in a game, well, obviously any game we officiate in Illinois, uh, that is sanctioned under the IHSA, which is typically anything that happens during the school season for any sporting event.
Well, let me make that very clear. Let me make that clear. That only applies to an IHSA game.
That's what I was talking about.
Right, exactly. I understand that. But I was just
Yeah.
asking, like at elementary levels as well, the
No.
lower levels.
No.
If you eject a fan, do you have to fill out a report?
No, not at the not at
At the
IESA
elementary
level.
level, it's
No,
the
that doesn't apply.
IESA.
We're talking about IHSA games. IESA, if you're doing IESA and all middle school and elementary are not under IESA, they may have a completely different procedure and a completely different set of standards.
Okay,
Right.
I got you. IESA, I got you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So they're similar, but they do have different rules and guidelines that you must follow. So if you are doing elementary, make sure you follow the IESA. Go to their website to find out the documentation. But for IHSA, this form right here under forms and reports is the special report form that we're talking about that you would click on to fill out. It basically gives you a little description here. And you just basically fill out all of this information that's in this highlighted in the space here. Keep in mind that anytime you fill out a special report form, and these are just some of the reasons that you would basically check and give a description, a detailed description in the box down here. This is the information they're asking for, but keep in mind, once you hit this submit button at the bottom, where it says submit report, it goes to the IHSA and it goes to the school principal and or athletic director at that particular school that was involved in the incident. Immediately, it goes to both. Okay, so the IHSA gets a copy as well as the school and or the athletic director. The school principal gets a copy. The AD may have to get it through the principal, but I know for a fact the IHSA gets it and the school principal gets it. This information that you submit in your report. What I encourage as an assigner, and I tell this to anybody, before you fill out this report, make sure you talk to your partners. And the reason being, some people feel like, well, only the crew chief needs to fill out the report. Depending on the scenario, that may be true.
No, it's the individual. The IHSA is very specific about this. That it's the individual. If you are the one that does the ejection and was the one, do not have a crew chief fill out that form. And I'm speaking of IHSA.
Right. And that's my point. That was my point. Is if you're the person that's doing the ejection, if you know that a player had a possible concussion, whatever that or you witnessed that the roof is leaking, like whatever it may be that falls under the special report, you are the one that's required to fill out that information. Now, I will say this as well, because this actually happened to me. There was a situation where I refereed a game that ended to a brawl that I filled out the report, but Kirk Gibson actually contacted my partner because he wanted my partner to fill out a report too. That was the first time I'd heard of them asking the partner to fill out the report. So I'm saying this because depending on the circumstances that may happen, they may need a report from every official that was on that game, depending on what happens. Is that the norm?
And the protocol is, and I just want to make it clear because I've had this happen too. Like if you have a fight, for example, and let's say Clarence ejects player A and player B. He fills out a report for player A and player B. If I saw someone come off the bench and I saw that and I'm the one who saw it, I'm the one who fills out the report for the ones that come off the bench. So it's really the one that whatever incident that you took responsibility for, that you saw and witnessed, you fill out the report for your part in it. You
Your
don't fill it
perspective.
out just because if Clarence did all the ejections because he was standing right there, two players started fighting. I'm not filling out the report. And the reason we're not doing that is because I may not have all the information.
Mhm.
Clarence saw the incident, knows why he's ejecting the player A or player B, and he knows, and so he needs to fill out the report. Having me fill out the report, I'm giving maybe secondhand, maybe third hand information, and maybe didn't see it other than on film. So I may not know what happened. It has to be you. The other thing is about this is a legal document. So do not get into conjecture about what you think happened. The kid was mad because of something that happened 10 minutes ago. No, they threw a punch. They did this. We're ejecting them under Rule 10, 2-5 or whatever. And that's off the top of my head. I don't know that's the player ejection, but that's what you're ejecting them for. You're not saying, I thought he said this or I thought he said this. And I'm also saying this. If they use specific language that you hear and you know it was hate speech or whatever, repeat the word that was said. Do not get in there and say they use the F word or they use the N word or they use this racial slur. Say the word. And the reason being is because it adds credibility to what you said, and also don't assume that that's what was said. That if you didn't hear it, then you can't put it in the report. But put the very specific thing that it was said, because that adds validity. Because this is a school event, guys. So if a player is cussing out somebody and uses a homosexual slur, and I'm just giving that as an example, they need to know that what the slur was, so that they can address that through their school and through their
Professional
uh,
services.
yeah, social service, whatever department that would go to, because that might be an issue of them being at that school, especially the non-boundary, the selective enrollments, those type of things. That has all kind of other things that go to it. But if you just say, hey, well, he just used inappropriate language, well, they may question what inappropriate language you said, and they may still debate you on whether the language they said is actually what they said, but it's better if you put the word in or the words that were used, that to best of your knowledge. Don't just say it was inappropriate language, it was unsporting, it was no. If he said get that blankety blank out of here, and that was a second technical foul, and that's the ejection, that's what you did. They need to know so they can deal with it accordingly.
Yeah. So just make sure you, and I guess my main point to this is make sure you and your partners talk about all of the details before you fill out the report. And everything that Jeff
That's
said
true.
is 100% accurate. You see the different reasons for the report. They're saying player ejections, coach ejections, fan ejections, possible concussion, missing AED defibrillator. Somebody asked me, well, why are they asking about that? Well, if the fact that you had to ask about that question and you're an experienced official, that lets me know that you haven't been reading the information. Why do we talk about the AED machine in the pregame with the coaches and captains meeting? This is part of the reason why, because if there's an emergency situation, they need to know, was the AED machine in the area that they said it was in? If it wasn't, you need to document that if that emergency situation actually happens in your game. Hate speech, again, kind of going back to what Khalil was talking about. If you feel this is a hate speech situation, they expect you to fill out that information. Why? Maybe this is a pattern that's going on at this particular school, or maybe there's a pattern going on with this particular coach and or player and or fan at this particular school. They need to maybe, beef up their security or whatever, just whatever it may be. Again, they want this stuff documented because, again, these are legal binding documents. If something happens, God forbid, thank God nothing happened, but I'm just going to use Khalil's situation. The fan was berating him, berating his call. He had the fan removed. After the game, the fan wants to approach him outside in the parking lot. Having this documentation can protect you legally. By not putting this information in the system, now you're putting yourself at risk. And you're putting the school, you're not putting the onus on the school by making sure that they address everything. It needs to be addressed in the proper order because, again, in the terms and conditions, There are things that the IHSA is expecting the schools to do in situations like this. Again, that's something that's not an officials training area that they don't talk to us about, but I know because I've dealt with this in numerous of occasions with officials and security in the school district within CPS and so forth and so on. So there's certain protocols that the IHSA expect those school districts to follow. If they don't follow that, if they don't follow that information, then guess what? They can be potentially liable as well. So again, filling out this information again, give the detailed information into this box. Make sure you submit the report. Again, remember, as soon as you hit the submit button, it goes directly to the IHSA as well as to the school that you are talking in reference to. So if it's at Washington High School, then the principal at Washington High School is going to get that email first thing as soon as you hit the button, just like the IHSA. Also, be advised you're probably going to get a phone call, the next day or whenever it happens. You're going to probably get a phone call real soon from the IHSA because they want to verify, is everything in your report accurate? Is there anything maybe you forgot about? Because again, we're human. Some things happen in the heat of the moment. You may have forgot something that maybe you need to add to the report to add more validity to your case or to your report. Make sure you give that information as well. All right. But just know that you probably will get a phone call from the IHSA, and or you might even get a phone call from the principal of that school because they want to know, because they're responsible for everything that happens in their school. So they may want to get clarification as well to say, hey, you said our security didn't escort you to the car after you had that fan removed and that fan approached you inappropriately and tried to put their hands on you. Can you please clarify exactly where you were at in the parking lot? They need to cover themselves. So they may contact you as well. So again, be as descriptive as you can when you're writing your report. Get all of the facts, get the names of the players, the school, what level, all of the information that's on the website for your special report, because again, this is a legal and binding document.
Also, they may not contact you either, and they're
Right.
never going to tell you necessarily. They're not obligated to tell you what happened with the result of it. It's
Right.
between the individuals and the IHSA. And then, matter of fact, they can write one on you. So just so you're aware of this, they can write a report on you. So if you when they write one on you, there's a different response. It's a different. The IHSA will contact you, and then they will allow you to respond how you see fit, meaning it's not the same. They may ask for legal documentation, or they may have a phone conversation with you like I had, I think, with Kirk Gibson over an ejection that I had because there was some stuff that happened in a parking lot. So he wanted to know some stuff about that, but that is not a requirement. Most of the time when these are filled out, especially an ejection, they don't call you about those, but they may if it's something in the parking lot outside the game. They don't leave when they're supposed to. The security didn't do what they were supposed to. They came into your locker room and confronted you. I've known that to happen. They want to know more information typically, but in your report about them, be very concise. It shouldn't be more than a paragraph or at most. And any information like the time of the game, the actual rule, those things are important every time, regardless. So if you ejected them for unsportsmanlike behavior, make sure you quote the rule that's in sportsmanlike behavior. But don't give conjecture about, well, they were in a bad mood because they were losing by 30 and I thought they were reacting. No, that's not what they need to know. They need to know what they did.
And one last thing, it is a felony in the state of Illinois if you get touched or hit in the parking lot or anywhere else right after you ref a basketball game. So keep that in mind. And the felony, they're going away for a while. I've seen it happen in my years as an assigner. So be prepared to do the paperwork.
And also if you feel like you need security to escort you to your car after the games, you can request that. And they have to accommodate that. They have to. There's not where they had to leave, because if they leave and they leave you unattended and something happens to you, potential, I'm not gonna say that, but you might have a case on your hands. Let me just say it that way. Okay, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving no legal advice. I'm by no means, but just saying that you can request that if you feel that you and your partner's safety are in danger. Also, another thing, if you are in a situation that you think may get pretty heated like that, it's best that you and your partners leave the gym together. try not to, oh, I'm going to leave Jeff because I got to get to where I got to go. And I know that was a heated ball game. You don't ever just think that, oh, they just said a few curse words at us. This is no big deal. You just never know what's on people's minds. So it's better to be safe than sorry. Always err on the side of caution versus, just assuming that everything is a-okay. We want everybody to make it home safe and sound. We don't want anybody getting involved in any accidents or situations or altercations. So again, if you feel you need that, request that from the security, or let the coach know. Let the coach or the AD know. Hey, we don't feel safe. We would like to have escort to our cars, especially if you're in a parking lot where they got a big parking lot. And my car is on one side of the building, Jeff's car is on the other side of the building. Hey, Jeff, jump in my car. I'm gonna take you to your car, and then we're gonna make sure we all pull off safe and sound. So that's how we do. That's how we typically do it. If that happens, fortunately, I've never had that situation happen where I had to take my partner to their car because of safety reasons. But you never know in this day and time what's on people's minds. So just again, protect yourself, protect your crew at all times. Any questions? I think Franklin, you had your hand raised. Oh, you see, you fill out a report for a game that you just did. Yes, I mean it happens. So you just got to be prepared for it. Because if not, it'll catch you off guard, and you don't want that to happen.
Yes, I actually was looking at the report you had up and didn't I wanted to know what type of report it was, but I actually saw it when I was writing it up. So what I had happened today was in the IESA game, so I had to go on the IESA website and build that. But yeah, in that very same token, it was a crazy day today, and what you're telling me is actually, oh, my question was, do we have to fill out a report for technical foul?
No,
No.
you do not
Okay.
have to fill out for technical foul, but if there's an ejection,
Yep.
if there was something dealing with a possible concussion, or if you feel like someone's safety was in jeopardy, or removal, ejection of
Which
a fan or a player or a coach, all of those things,
that's what.
they expect you to fill out a report.
Yes, I had to eject a fan and a player, or at least I had to eject a player. But yeah, that's what happened in our game today. So I had to fill out a report for those two incidents. But yeah, I'm listening. This is actually very informative, just in case something happens tomorrow or any other day. So
Great. That's why we're here. We
crazy.
want to give you all the proper information, because we know some of these things that may have never happened to some of you all before. But if it does happen, at least you have an idea of what you should do and how you should go about handling it the proper way. Right now, I'm just showing you a screenshot for those that do get an opportunity to work your state series game. This is kind of what this is just this is an old screenshot I took of one of my state assignments. But this is what it would look like. You'll get to tell you if it's girls or boys, what class, if it's 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. Again, it'll give you the site. So it'll give you a little arrow telling you where the location, that this was at Lane High School. The state had assigned me to 3 games. Again, if you notice, these dates are different. 2 of them was on February 18th. The first game was at 5:30 against Glenbard North and Des Plaines Maine West. The second game was the same day, February 18th, 7 p.m. Lane versus Maine East. But the third game was on Thursday, the 20th. So I had to go back to the same location at 6 p.m. So the winner of the first game and the winner of the second game, they played there. So that was the regional game. Again, it kind of looks similar as you move along. If you get like a regional or sectionals or whatever. But again, I think probably the most important part, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this thing to stop doing that. But the most important part is down here at the bottom in the yellow. Again, I would strongly encourage you to read the terms and conditions. They put that there for a reason. It talks about your, being on time and all those things, your mileage, your contract, accepting the contract. If you decline the contract, what the consequences potentially could be. All of those things are important. Again, whenever you accept it, these are the things that you have to be responsible for. You have to communicate. You have to talk to your partners. Again, just like we always train, hey, make sure you reach out to your partners before your game. Hey, partners, this is a 3-person crew. Pretty much all your state series games are going to be 3-person crews. Actually, all of them are going to be 3-person crews, to my knowledge. So make sure you reach out to your partners. Hey, I'm going to arrive at the gym at such a time. What's your ETA? Why is that important? Because it's still winter season in Illinois. We know the weather still can be unpredictable. Traffic happens. Some people actually get assigned to work. I think on this particular game, I had partners that one of them was all the way in like Northbrook, Illinois. That had to come to Lane High School. Another one was far south suburb. They had to come all the way to Lane High School on the north side. So they came from a nice little distance. I already work on the north side, so I was probably the closest person to the school. So I got there first. But again, just having our ETA, letting the athletic director know our ETA, so that way, because the athletic directors are in charge of that particular gym, that particular site. They're responsible for everything that happens at that game. They have to report the outcomes of everything, and I mean everything, to the IHSA. They have to let them know, was everything okay with the parking? Was everything okay with the fans? Was everything okay with security? Was everything okay for the officials? Was everything okay for the teams? Was the locker rooms clean? They have to report all of these details. So it's important that we communicate with them to let them know, hey, this is what was going on our end from the officiating side. If there's anything we need from them, you can usually shoot them an email or give them a call. That way, again, everybody's on the same page. All right. Any questions about that? Again, this is just a sample. I just wanted to show you. So for those that have never worked a state series tournament, you kind of know what it'll look like once you get the invitation. Again, you have to accept, as you see on the bottom left, there's an accept button or a decline button. You have to accept or decline based on your availability. If you accept it, you are expected to be there. If you accept it and let's say an emergency happens, you need to contact email Beth Sauser, or if she's in charge of girls basketball, or Chris Swartz, who's in charge of boys basketball. You have to let them know, because the expectation is once you accept the game that you will be at that game. All right. So don't accept it if you're not sure. Don't accept it if you got another commitment. Don't accept those games. But if you are available, accept the games, work the games. Another thing, if you keep declining games, I can pretty much guarantee you probably won't keep getting a whole lot of games moving forward. So, try not to decline the games if at all possible, and just accept the games and work your games to the best of your ability with your crew. Again, you're going to probably be, and that's another thing, you're going to probably be working with people you've never worked with before. And this is kind of why the training is so important, because how I officiate versus how Wanda officiates versus how Tyreek officiates may be different. My secondary concept of secondary defender may be different than what Wanda's is. Why? Because Wanda works high school and women's college. Tyreek works high school. Well, he works mostly college, but if he does work high school, he works a little high school here and there, maybe, for recreational purposes. But my point is, he works men's college. So there's two different levels of mindsets of how they officiate certain types of plays. You need to have a pregame discussion to talk about how we're going to deal with block charges. What if it's a seaside drive? What if it's a trail drive? What if it's a baseline drive from the lead? How are we going to address these things? Yeah, we might have a whole bunch of years of experience individually and collectively, but you need to have these discussions so that you're prepared to adjudicate the game. Because like Jeff said and Steve said earlier, these games can get pretty intense. It can get pretty intense pretty quickly. So from the moment you come out there on that floor, know your rules. Don't wait and think like, oh, well, I'm waiting to the first whistle to step up my game. No, be prepared when you come out that locker room. That's the expectation that the teams have of you, what the IHSA has of you, and what your crew has of you. Those things are important. All right.
And the other thing is they assign positions. So if you're the referee that night, they assign it. So it's not one of those things where, okay, well, during the season, we might be able to decide who's going to be what. There's a reason for that. So, just, and don't take it personal if you're not the referee on certain games. There might be all kind of reasons that you're on that kind of game, especially the officials that are moving further. That I've worked sectionals and was not the referee on the regional final. So it's you, and then I'm on the next game. So there's all kind of reasons. It doesn't seem like we know what their reasoning is, but that means that you are running the responsibilities of that particular person if you're the referee. And so do not shirk that responsibility and give it off to somebody else because I don't want to do it and this and the other. Because the other thing is too, in those games, people come and watch, and they don't have to watch by coming to the game. They can watch by NFHS Network or some other streaming service, which I know that they, for a fact, that they have used to observe officials, and then they, maybe decide other decisions based off of that. Maybe not even that year, maybe in the future, because there have been people that I've known that have stepped up and worked at regional championship and had to move someplace, and then next year or the year after they're getting sectionals because of the job that they did or the crew that they worked with. So keep that all in mind, and then also Coop is showing this too, that you all have the contact information that's listed on the IHSA website. So that's the thing that to put that. It's not arbiter, so it doesn't come directly from there, but definitely look at that information and contact everybody too. Usually the ADs are really good. They will contact whoever, the whole crew, but don't rely on that, because you might need to have a conversation with each other like, hey, I can't get there because I'm coming from this. They moved me. I'm coming from this place. I'm going to get there like 30 minutes before game time. That's good information to know, so that I'm not worried about like, okay, what's going on, because you're not here at an hour ahead of time, because there could be there's sometimes there changes at the last minute. So it's a good opportunity if you get it. But as I said, don't just because you're not working be disappointed and go to the games to rip on other officials. Go watch and see what they're doing, and maybe there's something you can learn from it. That's what I did until I got my playoff assignments.
Yeah.
And then when I was finally ready for it, I knew I was finally ready. I worked with a guy who worked the state final the year before, my first regional, with teams with one of the top teams in the state in my very first regional finals, or very first regional period. So, take advantage of it, go watch, go support officials. And let me also say this, and as you move through the ladder in this, uh, this is something we do not control. We control a lot of things. We don't control this. So don't go around and be like, oh, I didn't get the sectional that I wanted, or I didn't get the particular sectional I wanted because I looked at them and that one is a ball buster and that one isn't. Don't get in your feelings about that. This is not personal. Take it as the challenge that you get, because I have looked at sometimes the playoffs and I'm thinking, oh, it'd be great to go to that one, and then I get one that is completely, I am
Good.
just
Good.
it's better than I thought. And also, here's the other thing too, the officials sometimes that aren't going to risk their career by something happening in certain games, they'll put them on them games. Like if you're in the state final process or you're getting the state final, they would sometimes keep us away from the most hard games, period. We would get the worst regionals, sectionals, because they were the teams that were not likely to go further down. Because when we finally get them, we don't want to have them because we had something happen in the regional level, and now I'm got them in the state semifinals. So sometimes that has nothing to do with anything. So don't get in your feelings about it. Just work hard, do what you do, control what you can control, and enjoy the ride and the process, because it is a fun ride and it's a fun process to be a part of. And if you are one of those that go downstate, it used to be 12 of us at a particular class. Now it's 18 in both, whatever. It's a special club to be a part of, and and when you go down, I go down every year to the state finals to just support officials and to make them feel like they, to help with that accomplishment that they've made, because and it takes a lot of years and a lot of commitment from your family and other stuff. So don't get caught up in, oh, I didn't get this particular game and I didn't get that particular opportunity. Your time will come. If you're deserving of that opportunity, it will come. It will come.
Absolutely. Any questions about any of this information? Again, we just wanted to share this because we know we may have some people on the call that, may not be familiar with this. And at least you can have an idea of what this will potentially look like if you get the opportunity to work the state tournament series. So feel free, if you got any questions, you can unmute and ask your question.
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. This is Wanda Norris. How y'all doing?
Hey, congratulations on your state run last year, Wanda Norris.
Yeah, woohoo. I was just gonna say too, to piggyback, Jeff is correct. You need to go and watch other officials, and you need to be mindful of what you say. Because sometimes, um more
Yeah.
often than not, officials I generally don't think or foresee officials going to games to watch other officials. Primarily they go to see what officials are doing wrong and what not to do wrong. What they learn is it's like a teachable moment. Like, oh, I know not to do that. But I think it's important that we get more focus on support, because we have enough of enemies out there, from fans to everybody that doesn't win. But if we conduct ourselves in professional manners, and another thing with that is the coaches' ratings. That's how a lot of the officials in the past, they've changed the ratings somewhat this year and last year, but ratings are very important. So being professional, even with your partners, and even though you may not agree with them, always be professional with your partners, be professional with the coaches, and also with the fans, because there's rules that you can use to adjudicate every infraction that there is. So being professional, being supportive, and those ratings are going to be a big factor. And not to leave out your hard work, because officials coaches see you working and they ask for you. Believe it or not, they request you. You go way out somewhere and the coach is like, who is that? Like, I went 46 miles this past winter, and this coach is asking me to come back and do his championship when I was there, to assign him rather. And I was like, dude, you guys are 46 miles away. He's like, yeah, I know, but if you could, I'd really like to invite you back to do the championship. I mean, the teams are really competitive teams. So of course I'll go back and do it. But it's all a matter of how you put forth the effort and how you shine and present yourself as an official. So working hard and looking good in your uniform and hustling and knowing your rules, and how to adjudicate them, when, what time in the game, and what's happening in the game, and communicating with your partners, and all of that is all important. And it is a good ride. I will say that. It's, and you got bragging rights after that, right? So yeah, that's all I have to say. And I'm just gonna talk about uniform a little bit, because I did see um I visited a little game later earlier today, and I saw a guy in a full baseball football uniform, and I was like, wow, really? Okay. And it's a lot of cameras in the gym, and there's cameras everywhere. So if he's on a highlight reel with a football shirt or a baseball shirt and base football pants and Jordans, like, yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
And trust me, like you said, Wanda, thank you for sharing that information, because everything you said was spot on. Uh, Coaches and ADs will report you if you come in looking unprofessional, if you're not communicating professionally, if you have bad demeanor. They will definitely communicate that to the IHSA. And trust and believe, you never know who's. Yeah, Tyreek just put it in the chat. You never know who's in the gym watching you or any particular part of the game. Work every game like it's a championship. That is the absolute truth. Tyreek also is a state finals official. Jeff is a state final official. Wanda is a state final official. Steve Alexander is a state final official. Gary's a state final official. I mean, there's a
Tracy.
lot of people who've been on here who state final officials who can tell you from personal hand experience. Everything that you hear us training on, trust and believe. This is what the expectations are. This is what they want us to do and or not to do, depending on what it is. So take
And
heed to
and
that
your
information.
social media matters, guys. Don't
Oh my
I
goodness.
know we are all, or a good portion of us have been parents or are parents with high school age kids, and do not watch a game and then get on there and say, Clarence Cooper was the worst official that ever. Believe it or not, that stuff gets around. That stuff gets to the state administrator, and they take action sometimes with that type of stuff. And I've known people to get their licenses suspended or revoked based off of things that they did on social media, especially when there's cameras and stuff that will and I don't mean necessarily basketball. There was somebody was on the chain crew that did something one time during a postseason game and at Gately Stadium, and it became a big issue because they found out and they actually got rid of that official's license for a period of time. So yeah, I get it. You're emotional if you're watching your kids and all the other stuff, but treat them like you would want to be treated. If you don't want nobody cussing you out on the sideline, don't be the person that's doing that, and don't get on social media and say stuff. There's already enough people that say stuff about us on social media in games and situations, and my name has been mentioned specifically by a reporter, and when I went my first state final about something that was happening. So it's not fun, but don't be that person in the brethren or the sisterhood that does something that's inappropriate. And like Wanda said, people, if they know you're an official, you'll be sitting there and something will happen and they'll turn around and be like, what do you think? And you be like, wait, I'm a fan of or just support the officials. Hey, they're doing a good job. I'm not giving a critique. So be careful what you say, even in the stands with people, because the people over here and they'll say, well, see, Jeff and Clarence were saying that they didn't do the rule right. That's not a good look. That's why a lot of times when the officials, we sit off to ourselves and our little circle, and we have our conversations knowing that it's mostly us, not we're in the midst of a bunch of fans that have an opinion. So be very careful with that. You are on display.
Excuse me, Jeff. Wanda, congratulations on being a state final official and doing a championship game at Proviso West. Keep in mind also, Wanda, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. When I went down back in the late 90s, I went down through the Chicago Public Schools. That was an automatic bid for us. And people outside of Chicago Public Schools back then had a fit because they didn't think it was fair for guys to go through Chicago Public Schools. Well, now people are being chosen on their merit. And you were surely worth going down. So take pride with that, please. Please take pride with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree 1,000,000% with you. So everything we're doing, I mean, this is be honest. If you paid attention to the news media, social media in the last several years or so, plus years, you see that there's a lot of things that's being, promoted on the news and on social media. Sometimes it's mostly bad things when it comes to officiating. Very rarely is it something positive that you see, other than you make the call play. Other than that, but I'm talking about just as far as behavior, conduct. Like Wanda said, dressing professionally. I think there was a video this past summer or either last summer. The referees refereeing I guess a elementary game. Something he's on the phone on his cell phone while it's live play. Just doing things that's unprofessional. So just keep in mind that people are watching. Do your job. That's what I always say. Just do your job. Do your job based on what the Federation, what the IHSA, and whatever school district you work for, follow those rules because that's what you're being evaluated on. And we want to make sure that this profession can last a long time. That's why we're trying to recruit people because we all know there's an official shortage. It's hard to recruit people if I'm walking out there on a basketball court with a football uniform and, football equipment. No, this is basketball. I'm supposed to be in my basketball uniform. I'm supposed to be dressed appropriately. I'm supposed to look the part. I'm supposed to hustle up and down the court, not take the game because I'm trying to make a whole bunch of money. You're going to get paid, but do your job. That's the expectation. No matter how many games you accept for that day, do your job. Hustle up and down the court. If you know realistically you can't handle 4 games in a day or 4 games in 4 consecutive games, then don't take 4 consecutive games. maybe only take two, maybe only take one, maybe take three, whatever it may be. Know your limitations, because you are doing a disservice to the teams when we can't give them our best effort. Okay, so always remember that. Give your best effort at all times, because people are watching and people talk in this business. You'd be surprised. People talk all over, and word gets around very quickly about who knows who. Oh yeah, I saw Wanda Norris working. Oh my gosh, she looked horrible. She was not. She was just, the coach was trying to get her attention. She wouldn't pay attention. She would talk to the coach. Da 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 da. And now Wanda's wondering, how come nobody's not giving me any more games anymore? Well, because people are watching you work. So again, you want to be the best representation of yourself at all times. Yes, you're an independent contractor, but you still want to be the best representation of yourself, as well as the officiating community, because you represent all of us, not just yourself, but you represent all of us when you're out there.
And you can do the absolute right thing, and they still will put you on social media in a negative light. There was a game this past weekend. There was multiple ejections, and I'm not there, Clarence not there, but something was said. They ejected somebody, and there was these Twitter and whatever social media posts about how the officials shouldn't have ejected somebody. So you got to be careful when you listen to that noise as well when it comes to those things, because again, we don't have the story. I don't know what happened, and I really don't care what happened. But it's not for me to judge those officials when I'm not there, because I can tell you when we're on those games and stuff happens, there's a lot of things people do not know by a 15-second post. There are things that were probably happening in that game all over, and that probably was the last straw, but everybody puts this 15-second clip up and says, see, these officials are horrible. They don't know what they're doing. They can't eject them, and this, that, the other. And also keep this in mind, too. When we do this, that we are not doing the pros. This is not the NBA. Like what they do in the NBA, I tell them all the time, one of my lines is, hey man, you watch too much television. What you doing right now ain't acceptable anywhere that's not directly on television. And even at the NCAA level, Division I level, they don't allow a lot of the stuff that goes on in the NBA. And this applies to other sports, NFL, all those things. They do a lot of things at those levels because that's entertainment. We're not the same entertainment. We're not, the people are not paying for box seats to come to watch us officiate and play. So the things that are happening are schools, and it's a teaching environment, and they're supposed to act like a teaching environment. So don't not penalize somebody for, well, just like we had where the fan is MFing somebody. That's an inappropriate behavior on a high school or school environment. That's not in a pro environment, and even in AAU and travel, that's not acceptable. So don't get talked out of it because the officials are soft. No, you are enforcing certain things, because if you don't enforce some of these things and some other things get out of hand, then now there's a whole other issue, and that's kind of what we will talk about in a couple weeks, because he literally gave us a presentation about it, and a lot of stuff was officials just didn't do their job, and then they got to deal with the lawsuit because they didn't deal with their job, and they might got thrown out, but they didn't do their job. So don't let people talk you into this. Has nothing to do with what Ja Morant does or Draymond Green. They're not that. They don't have zeros behind their number after that check. So don't treat it that way.
And all of this kind of conversation that we're having actually leads into those of you all that are interested in trying to move up the ladder and work at higher levels. If you're trying to work college ball or junior college or whatever the case may be, guess what those assigners are going to ask? Hey, Jeff. Hey, Wanda. Hey, Tyreek. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Steve. Do you know this guy named Clarence Cooper? Can he, how does he work? Have you ever worked with him before? Is he professional? Like, now, here's the thing. Again, in this business, everybody talks. I can't say it enough. If any of those individuals I just mentioned refers Clarence Cooper to this particular college assigner, trust and believe that college assigner is going to believe what they say. They're going to take their word for it until they can see something for themselves. Now, that gets my foot in the door as the official, okay? But I have to maintain myself at that level by doing my job, by studying the rules, by knowing the rules, by following the rules at that level. whatever level that is, junior college, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, whatever. My point is, this stuff carries over into other areas of officiating, or to other higher levels of officiating, I should say. So if that is an aspiration of yours, then great. Take all this stuff that we're training and teaching on, take it and apply it. We guarantee you it's going to work. Why? Because these same individuals that I'm mentioning to you have worked college ball or currently work college ball. So they can tell you from their personal experiences what will not only get your foot in the door and get you there, but what will keep you there. Because I tell people this all the time, officiating is just like being a basketball player. You know how many, there's hundreds and thousands of people trying out to make different teams at high school, college, pro level. But guess what? There's always somebody trying to take your spot too. Same thing in officiating. There's thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of officials out here trying to make it to the next level, whatever level that is, college, pro, whatever. But there's somebody also trying to take your spot. Don't do anything to get removed out of your spot. Work as hard as you can. Give 110% effort every time you're out on that floor. Apply the rules accordingly the way they're supposed to be applied. Hustle, be in position adjust. All of the things we talk about, do those things consistently so that supervisor realizes, oh, you know what, Clarence is actually working pretty hard. He's doing his best. Yeah, he has some things he has to work on, but I'd rather keep him than take somebody who thinks they knows everything. Because again, you're only as good as your last call. Remember that. You are only as good as your last call. All right. Any questions at this point about anything? It doesn't have to be about what we necessarily talked about, but just about anything in general. Any questions from anybody?
Someone put in the chat that that's what the coach was telling me, that I was being too sensitive. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Khalil, if you want to jump in on that, Khalil, explain what you meant. Well, the situation, because I know some people came on a little late to the call. I know you said you had an altercation with a fan, or not an altercation, but the fan was saying some expletive words towards you about your calls and things like that. Can you kind of explain the story and then explain what you meant by your comment?
Yeah. So the fan ejection that I had, it came after I had already gave a technical foul to a player for taunting. Basically, what happened was he had blocked his shot, and he said, "Give me that SHIT," and was staring him down. So I gave him a technical foul for taunting. The coach was mildly upset about that, saying, "Oh, this is just basketball. It's just basketball. It's okay. This is just basketball talk, quote unquote." And so then after, when the fan ejection had came around, later on, he was saying, "Oh man, you're too sensitive. You're too sensitive. You clearly can't. People can't talk to you. People can't say nothing. People can't." So he was trying to spin that narrative when all I was just trying to make sure that there was a good basketball environment going on for kids. That's what I meant when I said the coach was telling me that I was being too sensitive. It was a build-up. It wasn't about the fan ejection too. It was about the tech before, but both of them together, he felt that I was being too sensitive by not, letting them taunt and not letting them curse each other out.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's something that we need to just be aware of as well, is that, remember, just like Steve was saying earlier, that we all have different tolerance levels as officials. But guess what? These players and coaches also have different tolerance levels too, meaning that some of them think like, well, you got to play hard all the time, and you got to be rough and tough, and you got to be firm and stern and other. And so they think that they can just say anything and use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm just playing. We just play hard. We just play hard. We're really aggressive. Yeah, but there's still a line that you just don't cross. Okay. And sometimes players, and we've all probably witnessed this to some degree, players and coaches sometimes lose that focus of, you're still a human being as an official. I can't curse you out. I can't, disrespect you, or same thing from a player's perspective. They can't curse you out, or ref, F you, man. That's a horrible call. No, that's unsportsmanlike. And then get mad when you give them a technical foul. What I say? Why? Because unfortunately, a lot of these players and coaches, when they're playing rec league games, or maybe when they played way back in the day, they said that and they thought that that was okay. And now they're bringing that same mentality into 2026 and 2027 and 2028 and so forth and so on. And the game is different. The expectations are different. The rules are different. And what was accepted maybe way back in, 1970s, 80s, 2000s, 90s, whatever, it may not necessarily be accepted today. Okay. And so that's why it's important, like we said, to know your rules. Also, you do have to have some thick skin. Don't get me wrong, because you're going to get some people that's going to question your call. But if they cross that line, and like Steve said earlier, if you feel like you like, hey, this person crossed the line, they said some things they shouldn't have said, that was personal, not basketball related. Because here's the thing: if a coach or a player says, "Oh, ref, that wasn't a good call," they're entitled to their opinion. We can't say, "Oh, that's a technical foul," because they said that wasn't a good call. That's their opinion. They're entitled to that. That wasn't disrespectful towards you. That's just their opinion about a call that you made. They didn't like the call. That's okay. Okay. But if we're sensitive and we're giving a technical foul every time somebody says something to us, then we need to check ourselves. We need to go back to our own training and get better training, because guess what? There's certain things that you have to learn how to listen to and ignore. And there's certain things you got to listen to and you got to address. And you have to figure those things out. All right. But thanks for sharing that story, Khalil. Hopefully that can help somebody along the way too. Jeff, did you have some plays you was gonna show?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, I have some things, but we can probably talk about that later. That I've
Okay.
seen. I will say this. Let me say this. I did have a situation, and I do want to address this because I think that this is important. This is not really related to what we were talking about specifically, but I was a referee on a high school game on Friday. And, and this just shows how you will have different situations come up. So when the visiting teams, submitted the information, they did it before 10 minutes. Just so you are aware, we've talked about this here. It is not required that the book be filled out by 10 minutes. That is not a requirement. The rule just says submit the information, meaning the names, the scores, the starters. That has to be submitted. Everybody that's in the book. The person that was for the home book that was copying it copied the list off of a program. And the reason this is important is because when he got finished, I think they had 18 players on the floor, and he had maybe 13 or 14, but he only took it out of the book. The visiting book provided the information. I sat there and I watched them do this. And when he subscribed everything, they had to add a lines or two or whatever. Well, anyway, so I'm watching them do this. I finally fill out the book because I saw that he submitted the information to them properly and they filled it out. We got to the second quarter, the start of second quarter. They're calling me over, and apparently one of the numbers was incorrect, and the player came in the game that was incorrect. And I do have film of this where you actually could see us going over there. And I said, wait a minute. And oh, this is the other thing. The person that was putting the stuff in the book was not the person that was the scorekeeper. Believe it or not, it was two different people. So I asked for the book. I said, hey, well, let's look at the other book because I think this might be a mistake. And we found the mistake. And the reason I'm saying this is because we cannot assume that just because they put something in the book that everything is okay. We have to really kind of check behind them and make sure, because if we had given a technical foul, it would have been really incorrect. We do not give technical fouls for bookkeeping mistakes. We give technical fouls for them not submitting the right information. And so if somebody puts something down incorrect, somebody puts it down incorrect, that we should try to figure out what the issue is and not just immediately go to, oh, it's a technical foul. And it actually saved us a little thing. It took maybe 4 or 5 minutes to figure out what the mistake was, but I was able, because I was sitting there when they were transcribing the book, I was able to figure this out. And I'm saying this because in my 20-something years before this, I might have given a technical foul without not a lot of thought process, because I'd have been like, well, the book is wrong. And there are officials who do this. So try to do everything you can to avoid those situations. Because we don't want to be, because if the home book puts something in there properly, we don't want to penalize the visiting team because they did something wrong, not because they submitted the wrong information. So that's just little things. And it's like, and that's why pre-games are so important. When we're there, we have to be attentive. We have to be paying attention because we have a job to do. It's not for us to talk to everybody and shake hands with everybody that we know in the stands. It's our time to pay attention and to make sure that we're doing the right things and running the game. And part of running the game is what we do before that game.
Great points. Anybody on the call that's on here, have you had any situations this year that you may want to share with the group that can maybe help somebody else out? It could be a good play, it could be a atypical play, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter. Just trying to see if you guys, because we all have stories we can share. Trust and believe. we have plenty of stories.
I have a play.
Go ahead, Tracy.
We had a play the other day where my partner called an illegal screen on A2, and the coach from B2 was jumping up and down about it was the fifth foul and we should be shooting a penalty. My partner had grabbed the ball and started toward the free throw line. So the question is, do you shoot free throws on the illegal screen?
Hey Tracy, this is
I
Frank,
know.
and I'm gonna tell you no, you don't, because it's a team control foul. You don't shoot free throws on the team control foul.
Right, because of the player control. Yeah.
That is correct. It's not a player control. You do not shoot on a team control foul or a player control foul. Make sure you guys know that, because some coach will be jumping up and down talking about, it's the 15th foul. We're supposed to shoot on that. Do not get in the trap, because if you do it that one time, you're going to have to do it on the next foul, and you're going to be shooting free throws all night for all the illegal screens, and everybody's going to assume that you're supposed to shoot free throws. So pay attention to what's going on the floor, and where that's part of all of that is still under game management. It's still under game management.
Absolutely. Got a question for the group, especially the lesser experienced officials. Can someone tell me how much time do we allot a coach to replace a player who has been disqualified from the game? Go ahead, Franklin.
15 seconds.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Is that correct? Anybody else have anything different?
20 seconds.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else got anything different? All right. Tracy, how much time do we get to replace a disqualified player?
Oh no, you better ask somebody else. Somebody else got to come up with that.
Demetrius.
I know somebody right.
And somebody's wrong. I know that too. Demetrius, can you tell us how much time a coach has to replace a disqualified player? Demetrius, you there?
Come on, y'all. Anybody can answer this.
We want you guys to be engaging. This is why we're on here. Because guess what? If this is a game situation, you need to know this stuff.
15 seconds.
Okay, Keith, you said 15 seconds.
Yes, sir.
All right, Michael Davis, what do you say? Michael Davis, are you there? Oh, we got people on the call that's not there.
Keep going.
All right. Josh Perry, what do you say, Josh?
This DeAndre. I got 15 seconds.
15 seconds. All right. The correct answer is 15 seconds. All right. So my next question is, how much time do we give a coach to replace an injured player?
Good question. Good question, CC. Great question.
Donna Bell, would you like to chime in on that one? Ray Wallace, would you like to chime in on that?
I'm gonna still go with 20 seconds, Clarence.
I'm gonna go with 20 as well.
20, okay. Who's that? Keith? Is that Keith? Okay, Keith.
Yes, sir.
All right. Josh, what do you have? Josh Perry, are you there? We got people on Roosevelt.
I'm sorry, this is Donna Bell. I couldn't get myself off mute, but I'm going to say 15 seconds.
15, okay. Roosevelt, what do you have?
Can you repeat the question one more time? I was lagging.
The question is, how much time does a coach have to replace an injured player? How much time does a coach allotted to replace an injured player? According to National Federation rules, how much time do they get to replace an injured player?
Now, I want to ask too, this is after the player has been removed from the court.
Hey, the question is the question. You can't add no question to the question.
But he's making a good point.
But that's a good point, though, because that can happen.
Making a good point.
That can happen. That can happen. That's a great question, though, Keith. But let's answer this first question first. How much time, based on the rule, how much time do they have to replace an injured player? According to the rules. Lenore? Y'all on the call, y'all making me wonder, y'all even participating. Y'all just on here just to say I'm on here?
Just on there to say they on there.
That don't do you no good if we're not participating. We got to learn and grow together.
Like I said, I'm still sticking with 20 seconds.
You got 20, okay. Franklin, what do you have?
I said 22. I'm pretty sure I read 20.
Okay. DeAndre, what do you have?
15.
You got 15 seconds to replace an injured player. Lenore, what do you have?
I said 20. I couldn't get it off mute.
Okay. All right. Mr. Greg Wesley, what do you have? Y'all just log in and just walk away from the computer, huh?
Yeah. It need to be on there.
Man.
You know, some people watching that Steelers game.
Yeah, but you
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
All right.
Hey, you're a referee. You should be able to do two things at one time.
But more importantly, the Steelers ain't paying you. We are. Refereeing paying you. So we got to get our job right.
That's why I said 20 seconds 3 or 4 times.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Roosevelt, are you going to reply to me this time? Mr. Mike Peace, talk to me. How much time do we get?
20.
We got 20. We got some people saying 15. We got some people saying 20.
All right, Clarence, we ain't gonna hold it. Let's keep it moving.
It's 20, and then like I said, like the other guy, it depends on other stuff. But to answer your question, 20.
20. Okay. All right. Great. It is 20. All right. So here's so going to Keith's scenario. Keith, can you repeat what you asked?
Yes. This is once the player has been removed from the court. Because if the player's injured, we don't know how long it's going to take to get the injured player off the court. And of course, once the coach or trainer comes on the court, the player, of course, definitely has to be removed.
Okay.
The reason that's a good point, guys, is because we're not doctors, so do not get involved in telling them when they can be done with that injury. I actually had this happen about a week ago where there was some dispute over this, and the kid severely sprained his ankle, and it took them 5 to 10 minutes to get him off the court. Because they couldn't figure out if it was broken, I think, or whatever the case would be. And even the coach, I was trying to give him some grace, and he was trying to kind of like, well, I gotta, this and other. I said, you got take all the time you need to take care of that. We'll worry about the substitution when you're done. And then once he was off,
Can you
now
guys
we
hear me
start the
now?
process.
Yeah, we can hear
I
you
can
now.
hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for jumping in. 20 minutes late.
I'm trying to figure out the unmute.
And by the way, that is found under 3.3. The injured player is listed under 3.3.7. For some reason, I just looked at where the disqualified player was. It's 15 seconds, but I think it's.
Would it be under the same rule for the if you see blood on the player or on the floor?
Yes, it is exactly the same rule. It says injury and blood is treated the same. And even in blood, when we see blood, get them off the court, make sure that's what we're treating, and then start the clock after we've made it clear. So that may take a little longer too. We're not just saying, oh, we got blood on him, start the timer, and he's got to walk all the way across the court. Because you could have a situation where they're bleeding on the floor and other things. That actually happened this year too, to me as well, where the kid got hit in the face, was bleeding, and it took a while for us to get the blood and everything off the court. And then we started the timer when they're ready, And keep in mind they can call a timeout too to extend that time. So if they want to, if once they're being taken care of off the court, we can start it, and they can say, Coach Jeff Clarence, I want a timeout, and they can run a timeout.
Yeah, because it does state that after the cleanup, like you said, if there's blood on the floor or whatever, after they clean it up, then you start the clock starts after they're done.
Absolutely. Do not be in a hurry to start that timer.
Right.
The only time that we're going to be in a hurry, and we're really not going to be in a hurry, is when we disqualify a player. Because then we don't want to waste a minute to take care of that. That's different. But an injury, we're not doctors. We don't know what is taken care of.
All right, next question. See how much we know. How many types or different types of technical fouls do we have, I should say? How many different types of technical fouls do we have? And name all of them.
Damn, you really, dude.
Yes, we got to. We get into the end of the season. We got to know this stuff by now.
You actually brought that. We did a Zoom on that a while back. Also,
yes, we did.
Yeah,
same thing. Make you laugh and make you cry.
Yes, all right. So, how many different types of technical fouls are there, and name all of them? Anybody?
I'm missing one, but I know 4.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go with Khalil first, Franklin second, Roosevelt third, in that order.
You have administrative 1, player, personal 2, substitution 3, bench 4. It's 4 at least.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, that's what I got off the top of my head right now.
All right. Well, good. I appreciate you trying to go off the top of your head. That's good. All right, Franklin, what do you have?
I got first player technical, bench technical, administrative technical, and then flagrant technical. So that's 4. Because substitution technical would, if I'm not mistaken, would still count as a bench technical since they're technically not a player on the court. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's your final answer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Roosevelt, what you got?
say personal tech, administration tech, bench tech, too many players on the floor tech.
Okay. Anything else?
Not offhand.
Okay. That's your final answer.
Yeah, for right now.
All right. All right. So here. First of all, I want to applaud you guys for trying to go off the top of your head.
Right.
That's good. At least you're trying to get it without looking in the book, or I don't know, maybe y'all got your cameras out. Maybe you were looking in the book, and if you're looking in the book and you got it wrong, then shame on you.
Yep.
I'm looking in the book now, though.
All right. All right. So Donna, you put personal, player, team, and coach. And you said, oh yeah, flagrant. Okay, same number check. Okay. All right. So why is this important? First of all, let's talk about why this is important that we know how many types of technical fouls. Why is because guess what? These different types of technical fouls have different type of penalties based on the types of technical fouls. That's why it's important that we know this. Okay. So first we have administrative technical foul. All right. Then we have team technical, substitute technical, player technical, and bench technical. So there are actually 5 different types of technical fouls. Okay. By categories, there's 5 different types of technical fouls that we have. Okay. Now let's dive a little deeper. Okay. Somebody without looking at your book, without looking in the rule book or whatever, or IAABO book, tell me some different types of administrative technical fouls.
Dunking in the pregame.
Good job, Khalil.
Okay, Franklin.
Me too. I was just about to say that one.
Okay,
Another one, illegal equipment.
Okay, Michael.
Legal equipment?
He said illegal equipment.
Okay.
Michael Davis. Give me name some type of administrative technical foul. Preferably without looking in the rule book. Okay, Donna, you said same number in the book before the game begins. Okay. Kirk, you said technical fouls from fans. Okay. Greg
Dunking in the layup line.
Okay, that was already stated, but give me another one. Greg Wesley.
But is that an administrative technical?
Not having the book within a 10-minute time frame. Not having all the names in the book within 10 minutes of the game.
No.
Go ahead, Roosevelt. What were you saying?
I would say different uniforms, jerseys.
Okay, when you guys say uniform, be specific.
Yeah, different jerseys, different color jerseys for the same team.
Okay. Steve, hold your comments. I'm gonna get to you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's hard.
I know. I know. But that's
I'm trying.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
I'm trying.
That's why we're here.
Some feelings need to be hurt, though.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I get it. All right. Yeah. Keith Taylor, do you have any types of administrative technical fouls that you can think of that haven't been mentioned?
Yes, I'm trying to get the right wording.
Well, just say what you're thinking. We can probably help you out.
It is. I think it's more of administrative foul that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So for
that's what we're looking for.
Even if you have a coach entering the court when they shouldn't be on the court.
Said you kind of breaking up. Say that one more time.
Yeah, say that again.
I said if a coach is entering the court and he should not be on the court.
And you saying that falls under administrative technical foul?
That falls under, no, that would be directly on the coach. That is administrative.
Okay.
But let me ask this question. Why do we need to know what an administrative technical foul? What is the penalty for an administrative technical foul?
That's going to be technical foul. As far as I know, all technical fouls are 2 shots in the ball.
But who do we give it to?
Administrative foul is
the team that had the possession of the ball at that time.
Yes, it's not necessarily, well, there is one that's not necessarily directly toward the coach. There is one. And I'm trying to think of which one that one is. I'm sorry. I can't think of it right now.
Just one?
That combination route. They got DK Metcalf going to the pylon and then stealing.
And I'm asking this for a reason, because this is why we're going over this, so that you know what the penalty is, because it's not just that it's a technical foul, it's who gets it.
Is delay of game one of them?
Is it?
Now, let me just say this before we go any further. This is part of the reason why veteran officials challenge younger officials, because these are things that you must know. You must know these things, because it's okay to say you're working a whole bunch of ball games, but if you don't know your rules, then you're not doing your job effectively. Okay? You got to know the rules. You got to know the consequences of the rules, because at the end of the day, when you get on that floor, the expectation is you're getting paid to know those rules. All right? Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, administrative technical fouls, I'll just briefly go through them. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Failure to give the stuff before 10 minutes. It's submit. It's not in the book.
Excuse me, Jeff.
What's that?
Excuse me. Give me a minute here. For you to read this is very arcane, because everybody that's on this call is supposed to know. I talked about ego earlier. Everybody has an ego. And I got a person that I know is on this call that called me and bugged me about giving me games at the Christmas tournament that I was assigning. And then this joker had the nerve to show up at game time. And he don't know the rules. And he's been on the court for more than 8 years. We got to do better.
Well, let me say this. The reason we need to know this, because we gave several answers that were not correct. And the reason why that we need to know, I won't read them all because I'm glad Clarence put them up there. But then there's also another page of a couple of them as well.
Understood, Jeff. I've been around a long time.
Hold on.
I've been around a long time. I remember when you guys didn't know the rules.
I agree, and I'm just saying
that all these guys need to know the rules.
I agree, Steve, but there are people in here who haven't had to give these technical files, so I want to make sure why they understand. An administrative technical file does not go to anybody. It actually just goes to the team. So this is why this is important, and it is these particular things that he's listed. There's 2 or 3 others in Article 3 and Article 4 that are listed. These just go to the team. They do not go to anybody. So I want to make this clear. When somebody said uniform does not apply. This has nothing to do with warnings. This has nothing to do with those type of things. It is just goes to the team, and it added to the foul count specifically to that team. So if they have 4 fouls and this is the 5th foul, I want to make this clear. We do not shoot extra free throws because we're going to the 5th foul. This is a penalty unto itself. So this just goes to the team. It's added to the foul count, and it does not apply to many of the things that people said. I don't need to repeat all of them because I can't remember them. Team technicals. just a different set of things. And again, I don't need to read them, but you need to know what they are. This also goes to the team. They do not go to an individual. And so the best way I can, the Chris Webber timeout, if you call an extra one, there are things you can give the team, locking arms, things of that nature. These are team technicals. These are not individual fouls that go to the substitute. Is very specific. It goes to the substitute during a particular time. And the reason this is important, because they're not bench personnel. So you do not want to commingle this with a bench personnel foul, because that has other ramifications to the coach in this, that, the other. Player technical fouls are technical fouls that go to the player. And somebody said something about a flagrant. Player technical fouls can be a flagrant foul, flagrant technical. Now, I want to make this clear. Flagrant fouls and technical fouls are not automatically synonymous with each other. So do not automatically assume that you have a flagrant foul, it's a technical foul. And there's a difference, because a flagrant foul in itself means the individual who is offended or their substitute is the only one they could shoot. All technicals in National Federation rules require, or at least allow, the team that's offended to shoot, anybody to shoot that's eligible. That's a difference. Now, can there be a flagrant technical foul? Yes, but and flagrant means ejection, by the way, in our game. So don't commingle that with other levels. Flagrant there's no flagrant 1 and flagrant 2. So if we call a flagrant foul, we're ejecting somebody, but it does matter whether there's a technical or just a personal flagrant foul. Bench technicals, same kind of concept, but it's specifically to a bench personnel, which actually can be the coach. The head coach is responsible. And the reason this is important is because if you give a bench technical foul, it goes to the coach in an indirect way if they are not the one who gets the direct technical. So if you tee up the assistant coach like Steve, which I'm about to do in a minute, if you tee him up, then his head
You
coach
won't work
has
with Bloom again.
Oh,
sorry. I'm sorry.
So if you give a bit, even the trainer or anybody that is sitting on their bench
Associated
area,
with the school. Yeah.
if you give a technical foul, that is a bench technical foul, and I'll put it in the quickest term I can put it. They get a combination of 3 technicals. Direct or indirect. If they get 3 indirect technical fouls, the head coach is ejected. This is why or disqualified. This is why this is actually very important to know. Because if you give a substitute technical and then you commingle it with two indirects and eject them, you are not following the rules. So I want to make that very clear. This is very different. And again, this is also where we could use the bench warning to, if we think that it could be a technical or the leading to that, this is why you give a bench bench warning, my fault. Bench warning in order to maybe put it on notice that this could lead to a technical. And if the same action happens as this bench technical, then it is considered, it goes to the bench. The head coaching rule is just basically talks about the responsibilities that the head coach has. And that's not a technical in itself. It just says stuff like they are the only ones that can stand in the coaching box. They are the only ones that can do certain things in the coaching box. They can stand during a timeout, things of that nature. That's not a technical, just saying what the rule is and the rules are about. And then the last part is not a technical, but it talks about contact, and this is where the hand checking rules and other stuff come from as well. This is the only section that does not, or article that does not cover technical fouls, but every other rule in Rule 10 is technical foul. But we have to know the difference because, and here's the other thing, if we do have an illegal jersey, this is directly to the coach, not the team. Okay, this is why that's important, because this happened years ago with North Lawndale when they showed up with illegal jerseys in the state finals, and the coach unfortunately had to sit down for that particular situation, and they lost by 1 point. but that's a whole nother issue. But all technical fouls other than the direct indirect classification result in 2 shots and the ball at the division line if we call a single technical foul, or if we scatter the technicals, meaning this is not a double foul, it has no simultaneous elements to it. It is always two shots and the ball. That means anybody that's eligible, players can come off the bench to shoot that. They can shoot the first one, not like the kid how he shot the first one, bring another kid off the bench to shoot the second one. Or if there's multiple, they can have multiple free throw shooters for each one. So don't ever tell a coach, no, coach, you can't have him or her shoot. They can absolutely shoot as many as they want to. Don't tell them that initially, but don't prevent them from doing that. And that is why that is important. And let me say this one last thing, because I think this is the confusion that we often get. Fouls are in 2 categories. All fouls are in 2 categories: personal and technical. Personal, common, intentional, flagrant, that's the category. Then there's technicals, which I just talked about. All that we mentioned are technicals. And again, the reason they're different is because we're going to shoot. It depends on who shoots and where we put the ball. If we have a personal foul that we call like an intentional personal foul or flagrant personal foul, it goes to the location of the foul, now the 4 spots that the foul took place. If it's just a personal foul, and if it's even a flagrant, where we bring everybody off the line, it's the offended player with the intentional flagrant, the offended player or their substitute is the only ones that shoot the free throw. No other coach gets to decide who shoots it. There's no other elements. That's a college rule. Don't even get involved in that, but you do have coaches think that can be done. That's why I'm mentioning that. But technicals are simple. Anyone can shoot them. 2 shots and the ball, division line, unless it's considered a double technical, simultaneous technical, or some other classification or a point of interruption, then it would go to where the ball is located at the time of the foul. So I want to make that clear. And and guys, I'm saying this too, it took me a while to understand some of this too. I remember I did not understand flagrant fouls for a long time, probably the first 10 years of my career. It never made sense until it happened. And then I finally I think we almost screwed it up and we got it right. And then I clicked that, okay, that's a flagrant is not automatically a technical. And what I mean is somebody threw an elbow to savagely hit somebody during a live ball. We called a flagrant foul. And it was the first time that I had to apply that rule. So this is hard because it's not things that happen every day, but this is a thing that can get you in a lot of trouble because you can do like I did in my career also administrative technicals. I want to make this clear. So once we have administrative technicals for book things, books it happens, it can't happen again. So they can correct all those mistakes. I want to make that clear. I made that mistake relatively early in my career, where we gave multiple technical fouls for multiple players. If they find out that they have a wrong number or something like that, they get a free pass for the rest of them. They just get to correct it. Even if you find out 10, 15 minutes later, this kid wasn't in the book. Okay, we don't care. Just put them in the book and we'll move on. So these are things that you really need to know. And this is something you probably need to look at periodically throughout the season, because once it happens, you got to be like what we just talked about. It's got to be off the top of your head. And you have to probably save your crew, meaning veterans, from making the same mistake. And it's different at the other level. So I say that to you because you get coaches who will use language that will confuse you. So you really need to know what you're doing at this level, because you can make these very simple mistakes and do it wrong.
And I'll say this too. You do actually have some coaches that do know the rules and they know the consequences of the rules. So don't think that all coaches don't know rules. Some do their due diligence. They study the rules, just like how we're having conversations. They ask questions. And especially the veteran officials on here, they can tell you sometimes the coaches will ask us, hey, isn't the rule such and such and such and such? So you got to know what those rules are. That's very important. Okay.
And that's
one
good.
Of the changes And one of the changes, I want to say this last, one of the changes was last year. Now, because somebody said pregame dunking. So if now 3 kids dunk, it's a technical foul for each. They're not considered bench personnel by rule. We just administer all of them and move on. And if it's like one player on one end and then another player, as long as they wash or any administrative acts wash, then we may not shoot free throws. We may just go to the point of interruption, which might be the throw in, or if it's more than one on one end that's not equal, then we might give it to the team that had the less technical fouls. So that's another element. That's a new change that they changed that last year.
And that's good that we're having these Zooms, especially for the younger officials, because, you know, we can hear about this stuff all day long. And then when it happens, that's when you say, oh, now I know what they're talking about. Now I know how to apply the rule. You know what I mean? Because some guys are just hands-on. So, and that's why it's good that we're having this meeting about all the different type of technical fouls for the younger refs.
And I'm gonna correct you for a second. It's not just younger refs. We got some veteran refs that need to review this too. And I'm gonna say this. If you look in your rule book, I always say this: study page 79, study rule 10, study rule 4. You got to study the whole book. But rule 4 is talking about definitions. Well, I say this all the time too. Every occupation has a language unto itself. There are key words, there are key phrases that pertain to that occupation. If it's an architect, if it's a biologist, if it's an astronaut, if it's a pilot, if it's a teacher, if it's whatever, every occupation has a language unto itself. In officiating, our language is all in chapter 4, definitions. You need to know those definitions. You also need to know these penalties, which is in chapter 10. Study page 79. This page right here is in the actual rule book. Page 79, you'll see this exact same chart. Okay? You need to study that. You need to know what falls under each category. Because guess what? Sometimes these categories may overlap depending on the scenario of the game. So you need to know how to adjudicate it. Are we shooting free throws? Do we not shoot free throws? Do they cancel each other out? All of these things you have to process because, again, having these training sessions is great. Having this, knowing the rules is great. But now you got to take this and apply it in a real game situation. How do you do that? You got to know this stuff first because you can't apply something that you don't know. Okay, so it's important that we study this, know this, ask these questions. That's why we're here. Because guess what? You're going to have a situation where you may have I ain't gonna say it that way, but you may have a double foul. You may have two fouls on one side, one foul on the technical foul on another side. How do you adjudicate that? Like, these are things you got to think about in real time. You can't pause the game and say, okay, timeout. Let me run to the locker room and get my rule book, and then I'm gonna come back with an answer. It doesn't work that way. You got to know this stuff. That is the expectation.
Or what a false double foul is, or something
That's what
like
I was about to talk about.
and I bring this up because people think that you call a false double foul. You don't call a false double foul. A false double foul is a way to adjudicate 2 different fouls. And I'm saying that because it took me a while to understand that too, because people think, well, I'll never call a false double foul. Well, yeah, you never called one, but it happened in your game. I bet you money because you called a live ball foul, then called a technical. I guarantee you that it's happened at some point in your career, or it will happen at some point in your career. That's a false double foul. They just mean that they have 2 different penalties based off one is live ball and one is a dead ball foul, and we adjudicate them differently. That's really what that means. So my point is that that's why we got to learn the language, because this is the other thing you want to do. When you say this to a coach, don't just use any language that they completely understand. Use the rule book language. Say it's a double foul because it's a double foul simultaneous at the approximately same time. That is a wash. That is a point of interruption. Like, use that language. Coach, this is a false double foul. But wait a minute, this happened. Isn't that a double foul? Coach, it's a false double foul. We had a live ball foul. We have a dead ball foul. There are 2 different penalties. We have to adjudicate them or apply them differently. And we have to each penalty. Stuff like that can add credibility, because when Clarence gets the phone call from coach, from Steve Alexander, yelling and screaming at him about how did they gave my kid a technical foul. They can't do that. Well, what happened? Coach, was during a dead ball. Yes, that's a false double foul. They applied it properly. Those are things we have to know.
Mr. Jones, great job, man. You are doing by what you're doing, participating in these calls is knocking the newness off of you. And we've all had to do that. You're exactly right. You learn by confirming what you believe a rule or a situation is by listening to the veteran guys. But there are a lot of guys on this call that haven't said a word or haven't answered a question. We got to take advantage of this. Back when I started repping in the 80s, we didn't have anything like this where we talked during the season to confirm stuff, to go over rules and stuff like that. We met for 4 weeks, 5 weeks before the season, and you didn't see anybody unless you made a mistake. Mm-hmm. So you got to take advantage of this stuff. But you also got to use this to confirm what you know in the book. That means you got to open the book and look at it. Mm-hmm. I remember when Jeff Rutledge couldn't quote everything he's quoting tonight. I remember when Cooper and Tracy Carruthers and Tyreek couldn't quote what they were doing tonight. I remember when all these guys were new. But they put in the work to be where they are now. And that's all you have to do is put in the work to be where you want to be.
And the other problem with our level is our level's not as public. A lot of people see it, but they think that things that they do at the other level apply to us. And they have a whole nother thing at their level, at the college level, the NBA level with terminology. So it's very important that we don't just, I saw that in the Bulls game the other day, and then I apply it. That may not apply. We don't have a straight line path. We don't have a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2. NCAA has class A's and class B's, and some class A's all class A's are one thing, class B's are something different. That's a whole nother language you have to learn if you go to those levels. But what happens is people watch those levels, see them apply, and then they say, well, let me do it that same way at my high school game when we have totally different rules. Keep in mind that the rules are appropriate for the level that they work. They're all different committees, different levels, and how they apply stuff. So don't automatically assume that's what it is. That's why you got to get in the book and realize what's going on. Because it's as a college official, and I know Tyreek knows this too, it's something. Those rules sometimes are so foreign. You really got to be on top of that because of all the variations and things that don't happen at the high school level. And sometimes we got to talk about it, even in the locker room. Like, that's the high school rule, but what is our college rule? Like, let's make sure we don't apply the high school rule to the college rule. Or we don't shoot many free throws in the wrong area, of the wrong team, and the wrong situation. There's all kinds of situations. So,
Khalil, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just had a quick question that popped up in my head that I remembered. It's kind of off topic. When a player calls a timeout, not the coach, when the player calls a timeout, is it true that player needs to tell you, or that player decides if it's a 30 or a full?
No, that's on the head coach.
That's right.
Okay.
Hey, guys, we want to take some questions.
That's a good question. And ask the coach, because a lot of times when the player calls the timeout, it may not be clear to you immediately what type of timeout there is. Different when a coach calls a timeout, because they might say immediately, give me a 30. And so you give them a 30, but you might have to investigate, if you will, or try to ask questions of the coach. Coach, what kind? And make sure they insist on telling you. Now, the rule says if they don't tell you, it's a full, but do everything in your power to find out what kind of timeout, because you don't want to waste the timeout and not know.
Hey, let's get some questions, Jeff.
Hey, I have a quote. So when that player calls a timeout, when you report it to the table, do you have to report that player's number who called the timeout, or you just said?
That's a great question.
You don't have to, but it's best practice to.
Okay.
Now, here's my question, Excel, to piggyback off of their question. Why do you think it's important for us to report the player or coach that calls the timeout?
Is that for everybody or just Excel?
That's a question.
Excel, or anybody can answer.
Okay, would that be like the what's his name? Chris Webber rule? Is that why? When he called that timeout and it actually was a technical? I'm just quite answering off the top of my head.
Okay,
No,
no problem.
that's not the reason why.
That's not the reason. Khalil, what do you think?
Because if later on they want to say that I didn't call it, it's documented.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So it's documented. Okay.
Documented, because what will happen sometimes in games, as we all know, coaches think that they have 3 timeouts left and they may only have 1 or 2 or whatever it may be. Now we have documentation in the book that in the first quarter, White 12 called a timeout. Second quarter, coach called a 30-second timeout. Third quarter, there was 2 timeouts called. Hey, coach, you only get 1 timeout left. These were the timeouts that were called. These are who called those times out. These are the times that those times out were called. If that information is documented, and that's why I say it's important to not only do call the timeouts and report it to the table, but it's also important for us to pay attention to the table to make sure they're documenting that information, because that can come back and bite us in the butt if we don't see them documenting that information. Same thing with the coach's warning. Don't just say, hey, I gave a coach's warning to the coach in the second quarter with 2:18 on the clock. But if it's not documented, the coach may say, it's not in the book. Why? It's supposed to be in the book. By rule, that coach is right. It is supposed to be in the book. Why is it not in the book? That's our job, to make sure that scorekeeper is writing that information in the book. So a lot of times you'll see scorekeepers that just be like, okay, I got it. Go ahead. I'm good. I got the foul. Or they're marking the foul down before we report the foul. Even though they may know who that foul is on, tell them to wait until we report the number, because sometimes it may be 2 or 3 different players in that 2 or 3 same team players in that area. They thinking we call it on White 12. We probably called that foul on White 45. Now they give the foul to the wrong person. We may have problems later on in the game. So these are checks and balances that we know works if you do these things. But you have to be diligent about doing it. And I know sometimes the scorekeepers, they feel like, oh yeah, I know, ref, I already know, it's good, I got it, and you walk away. And again, it may come back and bite you in the butt if you don't go back and verify that information in a timely manner when it happens.
And that happened to me Friday, where in the same game that I was talking about, the scorekeeper is off in the days, and I'm about to report it. He's looking away, and I call a foul, and I go right up to the table, and I say, "Who did I call that foul on?" I said, because I didn't say. I said he got the number right, but I said, well, what if I gave it to 12? I go, you didn't see me report it, so. Emphasize that, make a big deal about it, because that's a very important part of our job, is reporting that information. And if they have it incorrect, now we have a whole issue.
Anybody got questions
about anything?
Come on, y'all. We've been into 2 months of basketball, and you don't have any questions. That you've had perfect games throughout these last 25 days. You've had perfect games.
Nope. Question. This is Frank. I just want to reconfirm, because I had a college official tell me this is the rule, and I also looked at my rule book to confirm this. So ball is being inbounded. Ball is handed to A1, and off ball B5 or A5 commits a player or a offensive foul on B5. That is just an offensive foul and not an intentional foul, correct?
Yes, in practice, but there are some elements to that. And I say it that way. I say it that way because If it's basketball, then we're just calling a foul.
Mhm.
If it's strictly basketball, meaning I'm trying to set a screen, I'm doing something that's, related to me trying to keep someone from getting to the ball, something like that, and it's a foul, yes, it is just it's a not offensive foul, it's team control foul. So
That is correct.
that is the correct terminology to use. Offensive has other
Yeah,
implications, but
yeah.
it's a team control foul. We're not shooting free throws, and it's just a regular foul. Yes. And then the
Okay.
other thing too, I want to mention, because the college official saying something, there's different rules at the college level too, where you might see something, they do something a little different. So be very careful listening to people who work other levels if that's their primary level that they work. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying high school has some little different elements to it.
Anybody
And I
got any other questions?
don't want you to get cold creep.
Come on, guys. You got to have questions. You haven't had no perfect games. Come on now.
I got a question. If I give the ball to the inbounder and I give a decent pass, like it's a good pass to the inbounder, and he or she drops the ball and it hits out of bounds, is that a violation? Because me personally, I tend to just want to just assume that okay, maybe I gave a bad pass and do it over again. But should I be calling a violation?
Did you bounce the ball to the person or you handed it to them?
I mean either or. Let's say bounce pass.
Okay. In your
So they
judgment,
didn't
what did
catch
you
it
do?
properly. That's what we're saying.
No, they have it, but they fumbled and dropped it.
If they had it and they fumbled and dropped it, you have a situation. If you're saying you said they had it and then they fumbled it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Where did they fumble it to?
on out of bounds.
They were already out of bounds, correct?
Right, but the ball dropped and hit out of bounds.
Yeah, because a lot of those players, they're looking up court to see who they're going to pass it to. And like either if you hand it to them or you bounce it to them, they may be looking straight forward. Should you have to wait till they look at you, or you could just bounce it to them? And then I've had that happen before.
All thing you have to do is when you're doing that, hey, here
Yes,
comes
I'm
ball.
listening.
Here go ball. Put it in their chest. Put the
Okay.
ball in their chest.
Okay. Or even if you're going to bounce it, say,
ball. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. You have to use your vocal out there when you're trying to get attention. Everything don't take a whistle. You can be very vocal and telling people, hey, let's get it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You move people. Hey, when you're trying to inbound that ball, he's standing there, he looking, he trying to see the play, whatever. Okay, here we go. Hand him the ball, put the ball in his chest.
And here's the other thing too. Get used to using your outside voice when you're officiating, meaning talk loud. Why?
Amen.
Why is that important?
Amen.
Because some games, it's hardly nobody in the gym. Some games, the gym is going to be packed. But if you get used to using your outside voice all the time, guess what? Those players are going to get used to hearing you. And the expectation is, I got a foul on white 33, hit, 2 shots. But I'm saying it loud enough where the coaches can hear me, the table can hear me, because I'm in my reporting area. Well, here's the thing. Are we, and I'm saying we as all officials, because I know some people got bad habits, we don't report in the reporting area. We're reporting before we get to the reporting area. So the Federation wants us to hustle to the reporting area, stop, report, okay, whatever it is we're reporting, and then administer either the throw in or turn around and shoot the free throws. But some of us are emulating what we see on TV. The NBA and college, they walk to the table and report while they're reporting. Okay, hit 2 shots, whatever. By the time they stop and finish, they turning around, they shooting 2 shots. Okay, but in high school, we're not doing that. So these are habits that we have to break. Why is that important? Going back to the conversation earlier, you want to work the state tournament game, right? guess what they're paying attention to? Are you getting to the reporting area? Are you running around the players? Get into the reporting area, stop, wait till all the players clear. You have a clear line of sight with the score table, and you're reporting your fouls. If you're not doing that, guess what? You're going to get dinged for that because they want people to do it the right way.
And let me to completely answer Khalil's question. If you feel that he just fumbled that ball and the ball hit the out of bounds, that's a play on. I mean, if he had control or he or she had control of it first. If you feel they never had control of it when it started, maybe stop that and do it all over, because sometimes they do mishandle the bounce or the handle. So don't penalize them for our mistake being a part of that. But if they have it and then they like are trying to do something and it comes out of my hand, it hits the line, and then I pick it up, they just still have 5 seconds to get that across. That's how I would handle that.
Okay, and now on this reporting to the table, your files are, whatever. Sometimes you work with seasoned guys, and like you say, they don't run to the table. And then when us new officials run to the table, and this is what we hear. Oh, you can tell they knew. Look how they reporting the foul. They still knew. Well, I let that fly over my head because that's my rhythm. The minute I don't do it that way, I'm off the rest of the game. So that I'm sure I'm not the only new official that has heard that yeah, they must be new. Look how they running to the table. They doing this. They trying to do everything right. And then when you hear, you kind of be like, well, but then your partner may be doing a different way. And then they think, oh, yeah, that's a seasoned ref because look how he's doing. He's not coming to the table. He's doing that or whatever.
So I got a question. Are you
I
saying
feel
the
the same
officials
way.
are saying this, or
Same way, man. They do this.
Well, it can be the fans, it can be the people at the table, it can be the team, it can be your partner that come to you and say, hey, you slowing up the game by doing that. Just report it and let's keep moving. I'll be like, well, this is my rhythm. This is what I do. Don't throw me off my rhythm. This is how I was trained. I don't like bad habits.
I would say this. I don't care what anybody says about my reporting process. That's your personal reporting process. And you have to do what is comfortable for you and the cadence in which you do it, because everybody's cadence is different too. I wouldn't say that is a veteran thing. There are veterans who look very awful when they report stop, and because they go so quick. I mean, the thing I try to get guys to do is when I see guys, the guys will go like 23, and I'm like, I'm in the stands. I'm like, what foul did you call it on? Like, you have to present it in a way that shows confidence, and you have to present it in a way that it gives the proper information. And that's really what it is. It's the proper information to the table. And don't worry about what somebody else says about slowing the game down, because I want you to get that right. Because if you don't get that wrong and we go up and down the court, now we got to figure out, well, who the foul was on, and they done did 10 substitutions since then. We ain't going to figure out who the foul's on. I'd rather you give it right the first time.
And more importantly, I think your comment may be more so reference to non-season games, I'll say, versus season games or conference games versus like spring league, summer league, fall league. Yeah, you typically, and it's just kind of how it is. Sometimes when you're working rec leagues or fall leagues or spring, summer leagues, everybody's like, okay, just report your foul and keep going, whatever. But when you're actually doing it the right way, you're supposed to call your foul, run around the players, get to the reporting area, stop, report, then turn around, let your partners know, okay, put the ball in play, or we're shooting 2 shots or 3 shots, whatever it is. That's the mechanics that we're supposed to follow at the federation level. Now, do we cut corners sometimes during spring league, summer league games? Absolutely, it happens. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you it doesn't happen. It does. But the reality is, even when you're doing that, you still can practice on your mechanics, and you should always practice on your mechanics and your signals, because you still want to get in the habit of doing things the right way. There's a terminology that a lot of us veteran officials use, and we call it turning on the switch, okay, or turning off the switch, whatever you want to call it. But basically, flipping the switch on and off, meaning that we've been around long enough and done things a gazillion times over where we know how to turn that switch on. Everybody does not know how to turn that switch on and off. Okay, meaning that,
A
okay,
lot of practice too.
I know if I'm working, hypothetically speaking, which I don't work AAU, but if I did, I understand the flow of the game. They're trying to keep the games moving. They got about 12 games that day, that type of thing. So I may not go from the lead and all the way to the reporting area, stop, report the foul, turn around, shoot 2 shots, whatever. That may not always happen. But the bottom line is, yeah, you want to keep those games moving. But during the conference season, like now, you're always expected to do everything the right way. Don't get me wrong, but I get it. The spring they just want everybody want to kind of get through the games and get home, go home or whatever. But during the conference games, guess what? When you call a foul, the clock stops anyway. So guess what? You got to get to the reporting area, work on your mechanics, work on your signals, do your job, do what you're supposed to do. Your partners can't put the ball in play until you finish reporting anyway. The players can't put the ball in play and score the next basket until you finish reporting anyway. So take your time and do what you got to do. Now I'm not saying move slow as molasses, but you still want to make sure that you have a nice rhythm. Like you said, you want to have a rhythm to your presentation when you're reporting to the table. That's very important. Okay, especially if you're trying to move up the ladder. Be it state tournament games, be it college games, whatever, there's still a rhythm that you need to have to look like you're confident in your calls. Because here's the thing: if I just walk up on like 33 foul, hit 2 shots, my mechanics doesn't look sharp if I do it that way. So you still want to look sharp when you do it. But again, for me, what I was always taught, and to this day, 25 years later, I still do it the same way. I do my mechanics and my signals the exact same way every single time. So that way I don't have to worry about, oh, I was trying to use a college mechanic this reporting time, but the next file I'm gonna try to use my high school mechanic. No, just do the same thing every single time. If you work in a high school game, use your high school mechanics. You work in a college game, use your college mechanics. That way you don't even have to worry about getting mixed up or confused. Because now okay, I'm on a high school game. I gotta focus on my high school rules, my high school mechanics. Yeah, that's a good point, Khalil. You said coaches are going to adapt the call if the reporting isn't on point. That's absolutely. You don't look confident. Anybody, I mean, your assigners can look at the video and say, okay, Jeff doesn't look confident because he looks sloppy with his mechanics. Why? What's the problem? Now that leads to you look disinterested in the game. Okay, so now people are going to be questioning your calls because you look like you're not interested. Your mechanics don't look good. You're looking lazy, looking like you're not into the game or whatever. So these are perceptions that people are going to have, fans, coaches, and or players and or assigners, when you don't look sharp when you're on the floor. That's why you have to, like this past weekend, we had some freshman games and they were blowout games, 30, 40-point blowouts. Referees were like, oh man, it's hard for me to get focused in these games. Well, those are the games you really need to be focused on. Why? Because all it takes is a player who's frustrated to do something or commit a hard foul against one of the other players, and now you got a problem on your hands. So you got to stay locked in. You have to have self-talk. Self-talk is so important. Again, these are the intangibles that we're talking about on this call. A lot of these intangibles may not always be in the rule book, but self-talk is something that you got to always do to keep yourself engaged in the game and the flow of the game. That way you don't lose focus. That way you stay locked in on what's going on in the game. You know who the shooters are, who the rebounders are, who the game wreckers are, who the substitutes normally going to come in for. Like all of these little things, you can talk your way through situations to stay locked in. That's so important. Khalil, go ahead. You got your hand raised?
Yeah, I got one more question. Um, Say you have a jump shot or a airborne shooter, they land and their defender is boxing them out, and then they wrap their arms around the person. It's obviously a foul, a holding foul.
Mhm.
Is it on the ground or is it part of the shot? Or are they shooting?
So that's a great question. So it depends on where is the ball at the point of the foul. And you as the official, if you're the
Come in.
lead, looking at the players that are, in rebounding position, and maybe the defensive player that's, hooking the offensive player and holding them so that they can't get to the ball, you have to make that decision. So it's based on the flight of the ball, or where is the ball at the time of the foul? Let me put it that way. Okay, if the shooter hasn't shot the ball yet, but you see that happen, then obviously the ball is not the ball is not in flight. Okay, but if the shooter shot the ball and the ball is in flight, do you call it while the ball's in flight? Do you wait to see if the basket is going to hit or miss? It depends on where the ball is at the point of when you feel you need to blow the whistle. But yes, by rule, that is a foul because the defender cannot hook and hold or prevent the freedom of movement of that offensive player from trying to make a play on the ball. Any other questions before we get ready to wrap it up? Some great discussions tonight. Hopefully you guys are getting some good pointers that you can add to your toolkit, because again, that's what it's all about. Making sure that you guys have a variety of tools to use in various situations.
Yeah, Frank, quick question. To add to what he was saying. So I had coach arguing me about this call. So his player, this is Green 14 of Evergreen Park, was boxing out. Now the initial box out was legal, but he saw that back in the offensive player who he was boxing out, all the way almost out to the 3-point, almost out to the 3-point line. He hit it at like the 15-foot mark, and I called the foul. The coach looked at me crazy, said that's a legal box out. Now, by rule, that is displacement, correct?
By rule, yes, that is displacement. And let me just say this too. So way back in the day, many moons ago, decades ago, coaches taught athletes, or basketball coaches taught players, that you're supposed to box out and then move the players back. Okay, and there was never no limitations like, okay, we'll move them 2 or 3 steps back. No, it was just move them back away from the basket, so that way we can get the rebound and we can go score. Well, the reality is that's actually displacement by rule. I cannot displace you from your spot on the floor. You cannot displace me from my spot on the floor, or we can't prevent each other from having freedom of movement as well. So we have to be mindful of that when we are officiating plays, like what you're talking about. So yes, that is a foul by rule. Again, it can look different in various situations, but it is a rule. It is a foul by rule.
Then the other thing about that too, remember the airborne shooter is no longer an airborne shooter once they come back to the floor. So the foul might not be a shooting foul. Then depending on how much of a delay that is, you need to, that's a rule situation. That's not just a judgment situation. If they're clearly on the floor and then they get thrown to the floor after they were clearly on the floor, they're not an airborne shooter. So don't give shots based off of that. You might actually count a basket and actually call another foul related to that, and maybe even in the bonus in some cases. But just be aware that if it's close, then try to make it a shooting foul. But I'm saying this because sometimes they box out so bad, it's such a delay. They throw them in the stands, and they were on the ground for 2 or 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily a shooting foul just because they went down.
Right.
Know the distinction.
Good point.
And that's 4-1, by the way. Airborne shooter.
Okay, let me touch bases on something quick that we said earlier that Jeff talked about, was the making sure the books is right. Well, I did a game last week and the coach's book was right, but the table book was wrong. And I was working a girls varsity, and the head ref said that was technical. Like I said, the coach had it in his book, but the table didn't have it. So, Jeff, did I hear you say earlier that you don't always have to get technicals because it was a mistake on the people sitting at the table? Or can you reiterate on that again?
Well, the rule is simply they have to submit the information 10 minutes before 10 minutes on the clock. That is the requirement. It is not required that that information be transcribed in the book at that particular time. The reason that is important because in my case, and this happens sometimes, they went off of information that they thought was the information used, and that was not the information that they were providing. And when we realized that, he had to redo it. And it was actually kind of a process. He had to redo it. And then the person who was putting it in the book, I don't know why, but there was a completely different person that was the scorer, and the score that was currently in the game recognized a mistake. And because I happened to watch all of this, I said, no, show me the other book. Give me the other book. Because he put something in there originally not correct. And we found out that no, they said no, 23 is right here. And so when we figured out that was
progress. And I guess when the young lady got ready to check in, that's when the table said, we don't have her number in the book. And then the coach went to the ref and said, well, I have it in my book. They don't have it on, so how do you, well, like I said, the ref said, well, that's a technical. So they, he gave the team a technical foul, but the coach was screaming, well, I got it in my books. I don't know what happened with the table.
Well, here's what I do, and this is another line of demarcation that I do. Anytime I'm usually working a game, I didn't have to do it in this case. I saw what happened. Anytime I'm in a game and I don't see when they put it in the book, I go to the coach, especially the visiting coach, and I say, hey, coach, look this over. Make sure it's correct because I want to make sure they put in the right information. Because I've been doing this enough where sometimes just what I saw this bookkeeper do, he took it out of a program that they created and the information was incorrect. And and things happen because you might have had that on a roster, but they may have had jerseys that were incorrect or changed for some reason. So I normally go to the coach and I say, look at this over. If there's anything wrong with it, we'll change it now. If there isn't something wrong with it, then give me an initial at the bottom so you're verifying that this is the information. Usually they find out or they'll give it to another coach and whatever, and they do that. But that is the way that I can say I know that you made a mistake when this was put in the book. And then also, and again, it's a little thing, and sometimes I don't even do it all the time. I should, but I don't do it all the time. I just happen to be in this case on Friday. I happen to be looking at him when he was doing it. So I knew he was making a mistake or possibly making a mistake. And once we realize it's a bookkeeping mistake, you can't penalize a team for a bookkeeping mistake. And do some investigation because sometimes it might be, well, hey, we had 22. We never gave them that information. If you can verify that that's correct, don't give a technical foul. That's just a silly technical foul for us to give when somebody who is not responsible for that information is putting it in the book on their own terms.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that is a good practice. Just compare both books, compare the table book with both coaches, make sure everything is correct.
Right, and I don't go to the other book. I just go to the coach, and I have them verify. And I will even do that under 10 minutes. And I do that because I want to catch a bookkeeping mistake. I don't want to. Okay. I'm not trying to gotcha. I'm trying to. Is this right? Did they put in the right numbers? Like something of that nature.
Prevent officiating.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, this was a great call tonight. Hopefully, you guys got a lot out of the information that was shared. Again, we're not gonna be here next week. MLK Day, we won't be here, but we will be back the following week, the following Monday, the 26th, if I remember correctly. Yes,
26th. The 19th is Martin Luther King Day.
Yep, we will not be here on Martin Luther King Day next Monday, but we will return on the 26th. Again, we have our guest speaker, sports attorney Alan Goldberger, on the call for the 26th. He will be talking about officiating and all of the legal things that go along with what we do and illegal things that we need to be aware of and what we need to know when it comes to officiating. So I definitely encourage you guys to invite people out to the call. so that we can get this information out to people, because I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff that I promise you that you're going to hear, that you're going to be like, wow, I didn't know that. So great information. So make sure you come back and invite somebody to the call for the 26th. Okay. And so without that,
Hey, cool.
Yes.
Is it anybody on the call working Coach Gator's shootout this weekend that you aware of?
Not that I'm Bobby, you working it?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, it'd be a good idea to get out to that shootout at Malcolm X to watch what these veteran guys are doing.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's gonna be MLK games all over the place too. So definitely wherever you can go watch the games.
Sunday.
Yeah, wherever you can go watch some games, highly encourage you to watch games, take notes. You know, if you want to record some stuff on your phone just to have discussions, you know, what have you. You know, go to YouTube. I mean, there's some people going to be streaming live. Some people is going to be on NFHS Network. It's you know, access to games now is just, it's all over the place. So you can definitely get footage. So definitely get out, watch games, ask questions. Again, that's the only way you're going to get better, is to ask these questions. So when you get on the floor, you hopefully won't have to make some of, you know, any of those mistakes, but also do your job the right way, the way it's supposed to be done. All right. Well, once again, thank you for being on the call, everybody. We're going to wrap it up and call it a night. We'll stick and stay if you got any additional questions, but thank you once again for being on the call. Good night.